All right. Well, hello, everybody. Welcome to episode 8 of Turnbased Tangents. I am your co host, Polly Mune, with the wonderful KJ2294.
That's me.
We are both RPG enthusiast streamers and came up with the idea of starting this podcast of basically it is an RPG book club where we play a game off stream and go through it together and try to beat it. And then we get on stream to review it and go over the entire game in its entirety, the ups, the good, bad, and the ugly of everything. So, and yeah, we started this in goodness June.
June. Yeah.
June, yeah, we started it in June, and so this is episode 8, and we've reviewed 6 games so far. This will be the 7th, and then 5 games so far, and this will be the 6th. And then we had 2 podcasts that were different, so like a year-end one and one where we were talking about Square Enix games. So, but yeah,
Yeah.
uh,
So I don't know if I don't think you did like an overview, but I don't know if you mentioned the game. So today we'll be covering Tactics Ogre Reborn. Neither of us have
thank you,
played
Polly.
a Ogre battle / Tactics Ogre game prior to this. And the series seemed pretty interesting. The remake was coming out of it's a complete remake of Tactics Ogre Let Us Cling Together, I believe the name is. The full title of it is called.
Yeah.
Which originally came out on the SNES and then was ported to the PS1 and then remade for the PSP and then finally remade for the Switch. So,
Yeah. So
yeah.
it's kind of had a journey. It has a journey. And earlier, if you caught the intro sequence, I was actually playing the Tactics Ogre soundtrack from the PlayStation version
Mhm.
of the game, which I thought was very interesting because a lot of the songs and stuff like that are the same in this version, except for they've just been like upscaled and remastered and stuff like that too for newer technology and to sound a little bit better and stuff like that. So I thought that was really interesting. Like even the intro music was the same, and I was like, "Oh, this is good. This is awesome that they kept it so close to it." So, um,
And I think that's pretty common. Like I've found that that's common among like
Live Alive did that too.
remakes. Yeah, Live Alive did that. I know with Final Fantasy X they did that as well. Like basically they just had more real music instead of like the just synthetic music that they made
Yeah,
previously.
and like this is their second one where we've done it where it's technically like a remaster / remake
Mhm.
of an older game. So we did Live Alive as well. And so it's really interesting because in a lot of like my notes and stuff like that, I kind of compared a little bit to that just because of the way they upscaled it, but they kept a lot of the charm of the game, it looks like,
Mhm.
making me want to actually go and own the original for at least for PlayStation. I don't know if the Super Nintendo one ever came out in North America, did it?
Yeah, it did.
Oh, it did? Okay,
Yeah.
okay. So I
Both
just never knew it existed. I knew the PlayStation one because my brother rented it
Mhm.
one time. So I recognized a few of the character sprites and stuff like that from those days. But
Also, I feel like I'm
um
going to steal your thunder because you usually have the fun facts and stuff, but I actually have a fun fact to start us off. So the
oh,
first
yay!
two Tactics Ogre battle / Tactics Ogre games, their titles are actually named after Queen songs. So March of the Black Queen and Let Us Cling Together are both references to Queen songs. So there's your fun fact of the day.
That is so cool. I didn't know that. Okay, that's clever. I like that. I like that they throw in like little things like that reference. Okay, that's cool. I like that. I like that.
Yeah,
I had no idea. I
I've
had
been
no
holding on
idea.
to that for like a month and a half. I'm like, I'm
And
not
you
gonna say it to her. I'm
you
just
look
gonna.
this up and you're like, "Oh my goodness." And then
Well,
you're like,
so
"I can't say anything because it has to be for the podcast."
here's what happened after playing the game, and I got most of the way through it, and I was just like, I need to play all of this. Like, I need this entire series. And so I started looking them up, and then that's when I got that like fun fact. And I have a couple of more things about like more game specific, afterwards, but
Oh,
I'll
yeah.
hold
So
those
you're
for
gonna
like
be
when.
pulling the Star Ocean
Oh yeah,
in the tactic
I have a
game, yeah.
bunch of random things
Perfect.
for like basically future games, like sort of, or I shouldn't say future games. I should say like the other games in the series. So
Honestly, since you kind of mentioned what they are, which we're gonna mention them a little bit later, I'm gonna let KJ do that because KJ found all this out. It makes me want to play them too,
yeah, no,
because
it's awesome.
yeah. But yeah, KJ, I think you got a physical copy, right?
Yeah, I have to grab it.
Yeah, if you want to grab it, I'll tackle it. So
Yeah.
for me, KJ bought it. I got it gifted to me by Square Enix. It was a sponsorship, so I streamed a few times the game on stream before Christmas. There we go. So I only have a digital copy of it, but going through this game, I kind of think I want to own maybe the PlayStation 1 version, even though it is kind of expensive, or even just that version at some point and just never open it and keep it sealed.
Mhm.
But yeah, Square Enix very generously gave me a copy, and so I played it a few times on stream, and it was also part of the reason why we picked this for a podcast game, because KJ was like, "Oh, you already got it. Why don't we make this a podcast game so you could stream it a few times, but you're playing it off stream?" And I said, yeah, that sounds great because it's great because I got it from Square Enix and now we're getting to review it, which I think, adds a little bit to it. So hopefully, hopefully they're cool with that. But
I was so
I
worried
didn't
you
see
weren't gonna
anything
like it.
saying that they're not. So we're good.
I was so worried you weren't gonna like it. I was just like, because especially because I was holding on to it until you
Tried
had
it.
said whether or not you wanted to play it. And I'm just like, I have it. I'm gonna play this game eventually, but I don't know how you're gonna feel about it. So I was just like, is this gonna be one of those games that I just end up forcing my way through? Kind of like I'm doing with Fire Emblem, where I'm like, it's not a podcast game, but I'm playing it off stream. I want to get through it. Like, is it gonna be like that, or is it gonna be a situation of like we're actually gonna play it on the podcast? And sure enough, you did like it, and I was like, oh, this is perfect. Like, this is
Yeah.
everything I could have asked for.
And for me, a lot of the days now, it's like, okay, is this gonna be a stream game or a podcast game? Because I'm like, I have time for those. I don't have any time for anything else
That's fair.
and stuff. So I'm the same way. So like when I played it the first time, KJ was in my stream. It was just kind of like waiting to hear my opinion. And that first stream, I was like, all right, I'm in. I'm in. This is fun. Like it was fun. Like right at the get go, right
Mhm.
out the gate there, not gecko gate. Right out the gate, it was actually quite fun. So I was like, all right, yeah, let's go for it. I could see myself pushing through it, but I also gave myself a little bit of like reminder of like, hey, you've never beaten a tactics game. You have never gotten that far in a tactics game before. Give yourself a bit of a break. If you struggle or if you can't beat it, it's not the end of the world. Like I had that in the back of my mind the entire playthrough, and KJ was like really supportive about it, being like, yeah, just get as far as you can. Like
Yeah.
don't like just have fun with it ultimately. And I was like, okay, yeah, great, because this is way outside my realm of like games I play. So and
However, now the floodgates have now opened because there are a ton of tactics games that I
oh no.
still need to play and beat, and
And
like
now you're just like podcast.
that opens up a whole new world of opportunity because
Yeah,
yeah, there
it's
are
safe for
tons of
me
tactics
because
games like
like
I haven't touched.
I didn't think I was gonna enjoy it as much as I did, and I didn't think I'd enjoy the play style as much as I would.
Mhm.
So now it's a whole new world for me, and now I'm looking at it like, dang, I want to play another tactics
Yeah,
game. Like I'm eager now. Um, and there looks like there's so many that I've never heard of before because it was a genre of games I just never looked at. And something I was extra excited about, and I know KJ echoes this, is that we were both really excited that a lot of you guys played with us. No
yes,
Girl played the Garrett game at the same time. P-Stone did. Thunder Drummer was playing it.
Mooney played
Like
it. Like Mooney was playing
yeah,
it on
Mooney
stream.
played it. Like so many
Um,
people were playing this game. Some because we were playing it, but some of them just kind of ended up lining up because they wanted to play it at the same time. And so it was really great because we all got to like chat about it until Polly makes a decision that leads her far away from everyone else, and then I'm just sitting here like, Hey, I'm all alone.
Okay, so that is okay. So just like a lot of games, like a lot of y'all know, like a lot of games have their own sort of like I don't know, special traits to them, right? Like with the Star Ocean games, you can count on the fact that you're gonna have like private actions with characters that are gonna depend on like the endings are gonna depend on, and you're gonna have like missable characters and stuff like that, right? This game has um basically decisions that you're going to be making over the course of like every chapter that's going to affect how you're going to get to the end. So one of the so I'll start by saying like a lot of the decisions don't really change the ending, but they change how you get to the end.
Yes,
And
that's
like
it.
who will be there at the end, right? But like the core ending, there's like kind of like three core endings. I think we both got the same one.
We
Just
did,
with
yeah.
different characters.
We went
But
very, very different routes, but ended up at the same point.
yeah, because there's one like big decision that you make that kind of determines what happens. And so on a pot, like the good thing is I saw Mooney play through it, and she actually did the opposite of what we did and got one of the
Yeah,
other endings. So
she did.
I can speak on that one too, which is going to be pretty exciting.
Perfect, 'cause
Um,
I watched part of the VOD, but I didn't get to see the full ending, so I was kinda hoping that
oh,
you had already
you would
seen
have
it,
been
so
so mad if you got this ending.
okay, yeah,
The
I
end,
kinda figured because
yeah,
how it started off, where you sent me the clip, I was just like, "What?" And
it's
I was outraged, and
wild.
I'm like, "Alright, I'm glad I didn't go the or I'm glad I stumbled in and made the right answers or whatever to get through it because 'cause I'm like, "Okay, this is just weird." But, to start it off before we get too deep into the storyline and gameplay, because I know we're gonna tangent off a
Oh, of
lot about the
course.
storyline and gameplay, especially because despite both playing it at the same time, we went different routes, had different characters, and had different experiences, but
And
somehow
we
made it
played completely different. Like,
completely different and
yeah.
somehow both came to the same ending and we're like, "Okay. Alright, this is great." But one thing I wanted to talk a little bit about, which we always like to start off with is, like, the art style and, soundtrack.
Mhm.
Um, yeah, I'm gonna do you wanna talk about the soundtrack or the art style or either one?
I This is a tough one for me, only because, like, I feel like I was destined to enjoy this because it's so similar to Final Fantasy Tactics, right? Like, everybody knows, like, the Tactics Ogre, the creators of Tactics Ogre ended up splitting off and making Final Fantasy Tactics, I believe. I believe that was the order.
Yeah,
Um,
I think so, yeah.
and so, like, I was playing through this game and just the art style, like everything was very Final Fantasy Tactics. Like the original Final Fantasy Tactics. So um I could see the comparisons. So I feel like I
Okay.
didn't really it was unfair almost in that sense. Like I
Okay.
feel like I didn't really have a because it felt so similar to Final Fantasy Tactics that I was just like, oh, I like this. Like I didn't have any need to be critical of like the soundtrack or the art. Like the soundtrack, I guess it was definitely a little different. But like the art style, very, very similar. Even like the class, like a lot of the gameplay aspects of
Oh,
it are
are
very similar
they?
as well. Yeah.
Okay.
Like
Like,
the
I
class
have no
system.
experience with Final Fantasy Tactics whatsoever, so I
The
have no idea what
class
they
the class system is similar-ish. The class system in Tactics is better in my opinion. But yeah, I could definitely see a lot of the ties and inspiration there. Um, in regards to the voice acting, I think the voice acting was solid. I think they did a very good job with the voice acting. I was happy that it was voice acted because it's a very wordy game. It is a very, very
Yes,
wordy game,
it
so
was
I'm glad it was
fully
voice
voice
acted.
acted, which was, like, perfect.
Yeah, that
Some of
was
the
very exciting.
battle, like, little bits where they were, like, summoning something wasn't, but that was fine because you were speed through that anyway because you wanted to get through the attack to the next one anyway. At least I was. I was, like, skipping, like, the little dialogue of, like, they're, "Oh, heavenly father." "No, just do the move."
No, you can't skip the oh, that hurts. you're skipping the dialogue of the characters like doing their specials. Oh no.
Yeah, well, no, not their specials. The specials were cool. I'm talking about like the magic. And like when you get it
Oh,
over and over again, you're like, okay, I don't
okay,
need to read this anymore. Like I
that's
wouldn't,
fair.
I would let it go the first time, and I'm like, okay, that's cool. That's a cool move name or whatever. And me like, oh, I'm gonna end this. I'm like, yeah, you are. And but then when you hear that, when you see that over and over and over, you're like, yeah, I'm done. I'm good now. But I will say, fun fact, which I didn't realize until I looked it up showing my friend. So I was trying to get my friend interested in playing this game. And I'm like, oh, yeah. I was like, I recognized Denham's voice actor, but I couldn't place it. And it was driving me nuts until I looked it up. And then I laughed really hard because for those of you who know Genshin Impact, Denham's voice actor is the one who does Aito, which is basically this big himbo type character who's like kind of dumb, but like also, kind of witty. Very opposite of Denim. Like very, very, very opposite of Denim. Because it's Max who does the voices and stuff like that. And he's done a lot of like anime, he's done a lot of video game voices and stuff like that. Yeah, it is and so I looked at and I laughed really hard because they're complete opposite characters, almost entirely opposite. But this voice actor does it so well that they have such a range. The fact that they could do completely opposite characters and make you believe that they are that character personified is incredible. And I really like Denham's voice actor the whole time. I like the voice. I like the passion in his voice at certain points in the game.
Mhm.
Like he really sold the main character for me, and
Oh
I
yeah.
really, I really felt for Denham and going through all the stuff. I believed I was him, like when he was making his decisions and stuff like that. Like
Don't
besides
say
the
that,
initial one
Polly.
where I went off, but
Don't say that. You completely did something incredibly
okay, before we
against
get
your
into
morals.
this
Don't say
decision,
you felt like the
I
main
knew
character.
KJ would not go down this route. I knew it. So I
Mhm.
wanted to be different. That's the only difference of Denham. But
Mhm.
even when Denham's going through and talking about it, the way he references it, what he goes through and stuff like that, I'm just like, this is really interesting. Like, I really feel for this character. I really feel for him. I really feel like for his plight. He's really trying, yada yada yada. So like, don't act come I knew it. See, this is what's gonna happen. He's gonna come at me. And the whole reason I went that route is, well, there's two reasons,
I was
and
gonna
we'll
say
get
that's
to it.
not the only
There's
reason, but
actually two reasons for it. It's not entirely because he went the other
yeah,
way.
that's the
Um,
that's the
but
thing. So I got to that part and I was just like, I was like floored. I was so pissed. And Peach was like, "Don't be moral. Just do it." And I was like, "No, fuck that. Like, I have morals. Fuck that." I put myself in the character's shoes too, and I was like, "Oh, there's no chance I'm not playing this as I would, like as me." Like,
if it was me, I would have gone your same route. But there's two reasons why I did it. But yeah, so the voice acting was great. The music was really, really good. Like I realized there wasn't like a super ton of variety,
mhm.
but it was fine because the music was enjoyable enough. I loved hearing it over and over again with the battles. Sometimes they changed it depending on the seriousness of the battle, or if you were fighting like some sort of more centralized character than just general battles and stuff like that, like they did. And there was a lot of like emotional parts or stuff, and they changed the like the music really tied you into the game. And then the art style was beautiful to me, and I have no recollection or like no concept of Final Fantasy Tactics at all because I've never played it before. And so I love the way they drew the characters. I love the like watercolor slash pencil-y kind of details of the faces and stuff. And it was just a really unique style, and like the pixel sprites were really charming and really like softer in some places, but it was just really nice. And like all the little character designs were great. Like you get a winged character right at the start, and I thought they did those characters really cool. And so
That was my guy.
I found
That was
I
my
found
guy.
the art and the music and the voice acting all tied in together very well. I can't pick out a flaw of any of it. All the voices were great. I kept picking out voices I recognized like
I
right
don't know how you do
away.
it.
right away I recognized Adam Cosdale's voice because I've met Ignis's voice actor in real life.
Oh,
So I've met
that's
him,
okay.
and now because I've met him, I can pinpoint his voice in everything he does.
Interesting.
Because it's like in my head, and he's talked to me, and we've had lots of conversations, and we got drunk together, and it was exciting. Uh,
Okay.
and funny enough, it was like he was there, Liberdis from I know you don't know Final Fantasy 15, but that was from the movie, and then
Nope.
like the King from Final Fantasy 15 was there, and I was so drunk I kept calling the voice actor King Your Majesty.
Oh no,
And
Polly.
he kept playing the role because he thought it was hilarious.
Oh
Because he's
my
like,
goodness.
as you were. And then Ignis's voice actor, Adam, would just jump in being like, you must address the royalty better than that. Bow down on your knees. And I was like,
Oh
please
my
stop.
goodness.
I'm drunk. I'm not getting back up if you get me down there. And it was
Oh
so
my
funny because they were
god.
just great people. Now I hear his voice everywhere. He's in the game. He plays one of the White Knights that you meet right at the start.
Ooh,
It starts with G.
Gildas.
Gladys. What?
Gildas.
Gildus, that's it. Yeah. So he plays Gildus.
Another one of my
Um,
MVPs.
yeah, he was pretty OP. Oh my goodness. There's a lot of really good characters in this game. So I kept recognizing a lot of the voices and stuff like that. So I was like, this is great. And they had quite a late, and then they had like Gene on Emery, who comes in later, who is Biggs from Final Fantasy VII Remake.
Okay.
He was the Swordsmaster, Hoberum.
Oh, nice. Okay.
Yep,
Yep.
he was Hoberum.
Another clutch
And
character for me.
I got stupid excited when I heard that voice. I was like, "Oh," because it's
Yeah, I
also
remember that
Balthier.
because I remember being asleep and you sending me a bunch of messages about that character, and I was like, oh yeah.
So excited. I was like, because I play Final Fantasy 12 and Balthier is like one of the only memorable characters for 12 for me. And so he was there. And I was super excited he was in the remake too. So like I kept like pinpointing these voices and stuff like that. And I had to look them up. So like all in all, like I can't even point out a single like little thing where I would say like a lot of the sound effects were good, the music
Mhm.
tied in, the voice acting was good, the art style was great. Like all of it was done really, really well. So like
Yeah, no, I mean,
I
I
can't.
can't say I like pinpointed any voices in game, but I was like, oh, this is good. Like this is solid. Like I was like, okay. And I think one thing that's really tough, and I actually found this in some other games that I've been playing recently. The voice acting can definitely like break engagement
Yes,
like in the game,
that's
like
true.
and break the immersion, and like that didn't happen with this game. Like I was
Yeah.
a lot of times, like I feel like with the OST and stuff like that, I didn't even really notice because I get absorbed into tactics games as it is, and like this game, it never did anything to just like break me out of that. So like there were a couple of times because I had also played this when I had like a couple weeks off vacation, and like I was just playing this game until like 3, 4 in the morning, and I was like, oh shit, I need to go to sleep. Like, but it was, yeah,
I'd
it
see
was
your updates
definitely.
in our like private podcast chat and like be all in black all the time because you
Oh
were
yeah,
further ahead than I was. And I was just like, oh, this is at 3 a.m. This one's at 4 a.m. This one's at 2:30 a.m. I was like,
it
yeah,
wasn't
okay.
that bad.
That's
Okay, it was not that bad. It was like 2 a.m. There's a couple at 2 a.m. There were some in the
right.
middle of the day. Like, I tried to be good about it.
It was great though. It was
Okay, there
great
was
because I
definitely
was
one at like, yeah, like 2 a.m.
yeah,
Yep.
see?
Okay.
I told you. I told you. Yeah, KJ just recharges. He doesn't sleep.
Also,
Um
I love that there's the two of the first messages, Vice is an asshole. And then you respond in all caps, Vice is an asshole.
It was funny because
Oh
it's
my
like I
goodness.
didn't. We
I'm s-
both got to it, and I'm just like, oh my god.
I'm still disappointed that I think we should start talking about gameplay and like
Okay, yeah.
the
Let's
story
honestly,
decision.
we can't really like say there was a like you said, it emerged us. The voice acting was great, pulled us in. Music was great, pulled us in. Like all of it pulled us in. So like, I think we've talked enough about that. Let's just dive right into the core of this game.
Yeah, so gameplay was really interesting. I they had the element system Um, and I really enjoyed the element system. I think like there was it was really interesting because like with the elements, you had like weaknesses, but it didn't feel like it mattered a whole bunch to me.
No.
Like it mattered, but not like it was like, oh, you might do an extra
Marginally.
20 damage.
Yeah,
Like it wasn't
marginally
anything
more.
like super, super crazy, but I still tried to follow the element system. Um, and
Yeah,
the class
both sent me that.
system was very limited. That is one thing. So Final Fantasy Tactics, you can like make your characters whatever class, whereas like in this game, you can't do that. Like you have to have like you certain characters can only be certain classes, and that was kind of I did feel like that severely limited me. Um, like random units that I would just get I couldn't, even if they weren't story units. Like I wasn't really thinking about changing story units classes. It was, or a ton. It was more so like because both games have this system where you can like go to the store and recruit people.
Yeah,
And I was like, oh, I can recruit people and then I can change them to like whatever
whatever
class.
you want.
And there was still some limits, which was unfortunate.
You'd also have
Um,
to, like, get, like, their marks or something like you'd have to get, like, a
oh
special
yeah, yeah, yeah.
item to
The
be able to
item
do
to
it. You
yep,
couldn't just do it.
yep.
Yeah.
Which also was a little bit of a pain, but it was like it is what it
Especially
is.
for the fun classes later on where you're, like where you actually wanted to make them those
Mhm.
classes, and you're like, "I don't have any of this thing. Like, where do I get this thing?" And sometimes they were only you'd get them only in, like, battles or something. You couldn't buy them.
Yeah.
Like, certain ones you could only get if you fought a certain character or if you did a certain battle. So, it also severely limited you to get the more fun classes later on, and really pigeonholed you into having to recruit the story characters to get those classes or to like really recruit who you were fighting against.
Mhm.
I found I found like I was more focused on trying to like get certain things because I knew I probably wouldn't get like abilities to like change those characters for a while yet. So it's
And
like,
that was actually really interesting. So you brought up a good point with the recruitment aspect. Um, I found that to be really, really cool because you could recruit in battle, right? Like it was a
yeah,
skill to be able to recruit characters, and different classes have different. So, like for example, some characters are like their class will have recruit humans. Some characters they will like Beastmaster could recruit beasts and dragons. Like, and I thought that, or no, was it Beasts and Dragons? Yeah, it was Beasts and
yeah, it
Dragons,
was
I
Beast
believe.
and Dragons. Yeah, you had it
Um,
right.
and so it was really cool because it was like, oh, you're allowing me to recruit these characters. And you could, like, in the menus, you could check their loyalty to their specific party. And I ended up looking this part up afterwards. The more you use recruit, if it fails on a character, they're even less likely if you try again to join you.
Yeah,
So if you
you
tried to
didn't
like
wanna keep trying because then you just,
exactly.
like, end up be wasting your turn, yeah. I learned
Yep.
that the hard way with dragons. Very much the
Yeah,
hard way
and
with dragons.
it's funny because the dragons are, like, very finicky. I think a lot of the beasts are, like, very finicky.
A lot of
Like,
them were I was trying really hard to get, like, one of everything because I was very into this game,
of
and
course you
so
are.
and I thought the like you said, the recruiting part was fun, so you had this
Mhm.
ability where you could recruit people and different ones and stuff. Well, I had you had said there was something about dragons, that if I got all the dragons or something like that,
Mhm.
that I might have access to a character or something, and I
Yeah,
was
I
just
do
like,
remember reading
"Ooh,"
that.
I perked up, and I'm like, "Okay, recruit all the dragons," is what KJ was telling me. That was not what KJ was telling me, but I was like, "That's what KJ's saying, recruit all the dragons," and I kept doing these side missions in forests to fight dragons, to try to recruit them. I ended up with every damn dragon in the game
Oh
except
my
for
goodness.
one because I didn't realize it was a dragon, and I'm still mad about it because I would have ended up with that character had I have gotten that, and I was just too angry to, like, get out and then try to do it when I realized it was a dragon. I didn't realize hydras were dragons. I thought
Oh.
it was a beast.
No, hydras are dragons, yeah.
Yeah, I thought it was a beast, because it just look like I know it had like dragony kind of like multiple heads, but I was like Hydra, kind of like a beast sort of thing. And I was like, I thought it was a beast, and I always kept trying to get the Beastmaster to recruit it with beast. Now it makes sense why I didn't do
Oh,
it.
yep.
But I never succeeded. So it's like, okay. And then this character never even like appeared or anything like that. So it's like, okay, I don't know what I'm doing wrong, whatever. I'm just gonna move on with my life. But yeah, dragons were a pain in the butt because you had to look at their like, and it was kind of the opposite. So if they said they were really loyal, that meant they were really loyal to like their party, wasn't it? Because I
Mhm.
found like if I wanted a dragon, I had to get the ones where they were cowering.
Yes.
That's the what, like they had a thing where it's like this unit cowers at your approach.
Yep.
Those ones I could recruit that dragon. Any of the other ones, it was a pain in the butt.
Did
If they
you
had any other
ever
affiliate.
so you can also sell the beasts and everything. Did you ever sell any of them?
I sold a bunch of griffins, yeah.
Okay. I was
Yeah.
like, I sold one and I felt so bad. I was like, damn,
Until
I
you
feel
taught me that money hack, I was recruiting griffins and selling them
yeah,
off because they
that's how I
sold for like $85,000.
the thing is, that's I didn't learn about the money thing until I was like I was I was in the end dungeon and I was just like, well, the money thing, I'm not using that. I already captured a bunch of beasts and sold them. Like I'm an asshole. Like this sucks. But yeah, the money hack was wild.
Yeah. So, and honestly, I didn't feel bad exploiting it because it was a mechanic in the game. It wasn't like we cheated or
Mhm.
anything. It was just
Yeah, no,
literally,
it's they messed up and there's an item that you can buy that you can then just like you can buy it for lower than what it sells for.
yeah. It's you craft it, and then
Mhm.
you craft it, and then when you go to sell it, it's worth more than the stuff you use to craft it. So you could just keep going in kind of an endless cycle like that. And it's good at the very end of the game I did that just for the fact because it was really really hard for me and I hadn't ever done those kind of like any like kind of that before. And so I was really happy that I had like 100 of every healing item I
Yep.
needed and 100 of every revive and hundreds of like MP recharge things and stuff like that because I really needed it in the end. And in the end of the game, I had very little left
The
after
boss
going
rush,
through
like
that stuff.
you mean you've never had a tactics game boss rush before? That shit sucked. That was so rough.
It was
That
a little
was they
rough.
put you through the gauntlet. They put you through the gauntlet.
But I'm glad that you taught me that little bit because I was like, I was literally I was recruiting griffins and I
Yep,
was like,
same.
I've got an army of griffins and then selling them all off and making my money. And then KJ's like, hey, do you know about the money thing? And I'm like, you know what? Just tell me because I'm going to need money and I'm tired of like having to go
Mhm.
into these battles, recruiting these griffins and then selling them off because I found the griffins and my dragons sold for the most. But because dragons were such a pain to recruit, I found griffins easier to recruit
Really?
because
I
yeah,
didn't find a
I was
problem with, like,
recruiting
any of them, to be honest.
I think because I had, like, 2 people who were beastmasters and I would just go on either side
Okay.
of the griffin and then just recruit and yeah. So I found griffins a little bit easier. I found octopuses, like, really difficult.
I had
I
no
kn
problem I guess I just didn't have a problem recruiting, I don't know, like, maybe my Beastmaster, who was Key, by the way, Key was my Beastmaster.
I love
Maybe
that you made the beastmaster key, that was pretty
maybe
funny.
my Beastmaster was just, like, really good at recruiting because I never had any problems.
Yeah, and see, I struggled with the dragons, and then I struggled with the octopus. I never okay, so there was a unit in the game that's like this little flying dragon thing, but it was considered a familiar fairy fae thing. It was like this little draggy guy. He kind of flew. He was usually
Mhm.
a rogue, often with pixies often with the pixies. There's like the thing. I never got one of those. I didn't know how to recruit them. I tried to do it through the Fae thing, but I don't think that was a Fae. I don't know. I never got it. But yeah,
Um,
so
yeah, I didn't have any of those. I don't think I recruited any of those.
yeah. See, I never got that. I got a pixie. And I thought pixies were a little goated, especially because um, they could do good magic, they could heal, and they could use range weapons like bows and crossbows and stuff like that.
So they're basically like cannabis.
Yeah, they're basically like the wing guy you get cannabis right at the beginning,
That was my
except for that
guy.
they can heal. They can
Cannabis
also heal.
could no, he could use magic. He couldn't
He
heal.
could use magic, but he
He
couldn't
could use
heal.
magic.
Yeah.
He couldn't heal. Right. That's
So
right.
she
Because
was
I had.
basically him, but could heal. So I would have both of them in my party for a while because I thought that was really handy. Um, but the cool thing about this game with the characters and stuff is when you recruited them, even from a different, like, so you get in the battle and you would recruit one, you could name it whatever you wanted after, which was
Mhm.
great because
As long as
KJ
they
and
weren't
I,
proper units, like story units.
the only ones you couldn't name were story units. Yeah.
Mhm.
And that's because their names got said a lot. So it made sense. Like actually spoken out loud said.
Mhm.
And so KJ and I were like naming party members who we recruited or we picked up where we could change their names to people in our communities. And we both were saving each other for like a really good unit. And then it never.
Yep. I never ended up finding a unit that was poly. I
Yeah.
never did because
Same.
by the
I, yeah.
by the time I had gotten to a point where I could have, I replaced most of my um I replaced most of my units with like story proper units because it was just like the story proper units were just too good. Like I think
Yeah.
a lot of the end maps, I think I had like 12 um I think I got a 12 like there were a lot of the end maps there was like 12 characters. Um and my best classes were Valkyrie and Warrior. So like
Oh,
I
interesting.
got two in my route, I got two different Valkyries, and then I had Null Girl was a Valkyrie also. And then Denim was I think I had Denim as a warrior for like the entire game. I think Denim was a warrior.
Same.
Or
I didn't change denim at
I didn't
all. I
change
thought I was the
Denim.
only one.
No, I didn't change Denim, and Peach was also a warrior, so I had Peach in there too. Um, and the only time I like at the end of the game, I swapped out some characters. Oh, at the end of the game, so Meech was one of my healers, but there was a point where I was like, okay, I have the White Knights now. I don't need a healer, and then I had to swap. I needed another healer at the end game, so I ended up putting Meech back in the party for the final fight because I needed somebody to cure the most ridiculous fucking status ability that I've ever experienced in a
Katie's
game
still a
before.
little salty about it.
Um, not being able to revive characters, like, oh my goodness, that was so stupid. But
Hanno heard me screaming at the TV when I got to that part.
yeah, that was an experience. But yeah, no, I for the most part ended up going with like story units, which I don't think you got some of the story. So there were like four sisters, right?
Mhm.
Did
I got I got 2 of them.
you got the healer and you
Mhm.
got the Valkyrie that was in red, right? Like Syria.
No, I got, the healer and, the
Did
one
you
that
get
was a witch.
Oh, you got Sherry.
Yeah, I got Sherry.
I didn't
I
get
got
Sherry because you had to do extra stuff to get Sherry, I believe.
Yes, you did. It's a pain in the butt. I'll
Yeah, see,
explain it
you did a
later.
bunch of like extra, get all these extra characters. I didn't get Sherry.
Honestly, I accidentally got Sherry, fun fact.
Okay.
Accidentally, and I'll explain it a little bit later when we get into that. But
So I got the
so
two
you could get
Valkyries
all
and the
4?
healer.
Could you get all 4?
You can get all four in the
Oh.
chaos route
Oh, okay, okay, that's why.
because in your route you can't get Sistina. Sistina is the one you don't get Sistina, you
Oh,
get
she's one of the
Ravnus,
sisters.
which is a good trade-off to be honest.
Yeah, Ravnus
Um
is a Valkyrie, she was OP.
but Sistina, I gave Sistina these like there's different items that you can equip on characters, right? And so I found these like winged boots that basically let the person become a flying unit.
Oh, that's handy.
So I would
Nice.
start maps with Canopus and Sistina flying to high ground and just like magic, like and just like or like scouting and everything. It was so good. Like that was such a good setup. Um, and then I turned the other sister into a dragoon so that I could deal with all the different beasts and everything.
Oh, yeah, yeah, yeah.
But
Dragoons had one purpose, to kill the beasts and the dragons as fast as you can because they had the most health.
yep, and they were so clutch. Like that was it was
Anno was my dragoon.
yeah, it was one of those games
He
where like
tames all the beasts. Or no, he destroys all the beasts. All the beasts cower before him. I thought it
okay,
was funny.
okay, I see what you did there. Um,
Hey, your significant other
a warrior.
was a ninja
No, she's a
and was like
warrior.
you in
Oh,
your
for
game.
you, for
For
you.
me, she was a
Oh, okay.
ninja going stabbing everybody in the back.
Gotcha.
I
Like I
loved
said,
it.
she's a warrior for me.
Yeah. No, Key was my warrior.
Ah, okay.
He was a warrior, but I ended up very similar to you. By the end, because I had gone and recruited so many,
Mm,
story characters, I ended up with, I think I don't think I ended up with a besides Key because he was a warrior, him and Denim being the 2 warriors, I always had them go on, like, opposite sides.
mhm.
And then, like, pincer people all the
Okay.
time, which was great because it's like if they attack you, then you had that pincer where they would, like, counter. Oh, it was or when you attack them and you had the pincer, they would both attack, which is so
Okay.
satisfying.
I stopped using the pincer attack because I felt like it was just kind of a waste and I couldn't like set people up well enough to use it. So I was
That's
just
fair.
like, nah, it'll be fine. But I did you triggered a memory of I did actually have a ninja. My ninja was Shuriken. Shuriken was my ninja. And like came in so clutch when I started using
Thank God.
the two weapon, like the double attack. Because like in most of these games, the ninja class can attack twice. So once I gave him two weapons and started attacking twice, he was kind of OP. So that was
Okay.
very clutch. And I went the route of like more support skills and like more support skills and more solo offensive skills. So anything that relied on like other characters like or buffed other characters or anything like that, it was like, nah, I'm using the support skills to support that character and like everyone's just fending for themselves. They're on their own until people needed to be healed or revived and then I would do that, but like other than that people were on their own.
Okay,
Yeah.
interesting. I was, very much playing it safe kind of thing, and I was trying to, like, plan out where I could, like, pincer people, and
Mhm.
then, like, I know Jay or Shuriken, wanted me to name them after the ninja, but I only found a female one. So that's why
Fair enough.
Peach ended up being the ninja, but I love that the ninja, as you progressed, got the double attack. That
Yes,
was
it was so good.
so handy.
Mhm.
And, later I got a story character who could do the same thing, but was like
Oh.
had double the attack of a ninja, which
Oh,
was like
what?
made them super strong, and I'll
Yo, you
tell you
got
who because
so
you're
many.
gonna be, like, so mad because it ends up being who it is.
Oh, is it the dude? Oh, I know who it is. I hate
I don't
that
think you
character.
do. You're thinking of a different one, but anyway,
Oh, okay.
it was basically where we both universally said, "Fuck this character," and that
Oh,
is the
it
one
was
who it
Rice. Oh, oh my goodness. I want to get into the story. I do want to get into
Okay.
the story
Okay. I
because
think we
like
talked about, like, the battle system and
yeah,
kinda the way it's a classic tactics game where you have,
exactly.
like, the little squares on the map and everything, and, like, if you are at higher ground attacking lower ground, that you do more damage and stuff like that. Like KJ mentioned with the elements, while there was an order of which ones were better, it was such a marginal difference, I found myself by the end not really caring. I would just
Yeah.
do the move that had the most damage to the character. So, like, for example, Sherry was Earth. So I put a Earth attack all on her and it did more damage than any of the
Mm,
other elements. I
yeah.
found if you were already that element, you would do more damage. So
Yep.
I kept that
Yes,
tradition up.
you did get like almost the Pokemon stab uh like same type attack bonus type thing.
Yeah, yeah. It was like a marginal, but but if you paired it up with also pairing it up with their element, I found it was a little bit more of a difference and stuff like that. So, uh, Eno is in a duty
Yeah,
right
I
now, and
saw.
it's really silly.
Um, okay, so how do we want to do this? Because I think there's a we can approach this in many different ways. We can talk about like each chapter, or like here's how I foresee this happening, right? I
Yeah,
foresee
maybe
us
we should
talking.
talk about each chapter and then I'll talk about all the extra characters I got after we get to the
That's
where it's the end sequence. How about that?
okay. That's fine.
Okay. 'Cause I
Um,
can't remember where I got and what chapter of which character, and I think when we get to where we're about to talk about the end, that I'll talk about the other characters I got.
I just want to say the difference in what happens is so ridiculous. So there's three routes, right? There's the chaos route, there's the neutral route, and there's the lawful route. Polly took the lawful route, which you would think is like the better thing in the sense of like you would think lawful being more moral, right? But actually, so the end of you have a big decision the end of each chapter, right? And that determines like which route you're going to be on for in the first two chapters, and then you kind of get thrown to the wolves, right? Um, and I'm trying to think now the end of chapter 3. I'm trying to remember what the end of chapter 3 decision is, but in
Oh,
chapter
that's the
1,
one that changes the ending.
is it? I thought that happened in
Yes.
chapter 4.
That Oh, no, you're right. That is towards
What the
the end
hell
of
happens at the
chapter
end of
4.
chapter 3? I'm gonna have to load up the game. But yeah, so chapter 1, you basically get to
Yeah,
this
I forget
point
what happened at the end of chapter 3. You're
at
right.
the end of
Look,
chapter 1. So like you're you're at a point where the
you're like resistant fighters.
yeah,
This is how the game starts us off, is that you start off with your main character Denim and his sister Katua and their horrible friend Vice, as the I like the
pretty
smile.
much.
Pretty much, yeah. As like these resistant fighters. So they're, trying to, they're trying to figure out a way to save their duke, because their duke has been kidnapped, and they are kind of like losing. They're basically kind of on the precipice of like losing the war, sort of idea. And so that's how you start off the game. And that's your main character, Denim and his sister and this guy, Vice guy. And then you start like meeting up with it. So meet this is where, okay, this pissed me off. You get both a good guy and bad guy with the exact same name. And they call this out right at the start of the game, that you run into this guy, Lancelot, and Vice is like, "I know you. You killed all our people, blah, blah, blah." And he's like, "Excuse me?" Like, "Who are you? I have no idea what you're talking about." And Vice is like, "Drew," and he's like, I picture Vice having this like tiny little dagger being like, "I'ma fight you." And it's you're like looking at a kitten hissing and you're like, "Yeah, okay, kitten hissing. Like you're really gonna you're really gonna attack me." That's how I pictured Lancelot dealing with Vice. So you run into these guys, and that's where Canopus, one of our each of our favorite characters, come into play. He's got wings and stuff like that, and a couple of these other holy knights and white knights are with him.
Mhm.
And they're actually like talking about being like mercenaries, and they've left their own country and they have no idea what you're talking about. Well, you find out that there's another Lancelot and he's a dark knight. And that's the one Vice hates and who's killed a lot of people. And you're like,
Mhm.
why do they have to have the same damn name?
And so
Like,
here's where I'm gonna drop a little bit of like holy shit knowledge, right? So Lancelot the Dark Knight, the Game Boy Advance game, is all about his past.
ooh.
Lancelot the White Knight, the SNES game, Ogre Battle March of the Black Queen, is all about the war that he was involved in and how he got to where he is. And then
Oh, okay.
um Tactics Ogre, or not Tactics, Ogre Battle 64, I believe is, or I know it happens simultaneously, and I think it's happening back in the White Knights like land. I can't remember the exact names now because I'm like so far removed from the game at this point.
I think it's
But
Sodius or something like that. Something like that.
Zenobia,
Zenobia,
yes,
yeah.
I
I
believe
think.
it's Zenobia.
Yeah, I think it's
Um,
Zenobia.
yeah, so that's taking place. I believe that's taking place there. Um,
Okay.
in for
Despite
Ogre Battle
them
64.
having the same name, they were both very different characters. So I mean, after the first initial little bit or whatever, and you could very much tell the difference. The sprites look very different from each other. The characters' mannerisms are very different, and the voice actors are very different. So you understand. It's just it threw me off right at the start that they were named the same. And like when they talk about Lancelot, I had to like think for a second. I'm like, oh, you're talking about the Dark Knight. If they're doing some bad, and if they were doing something good, they're oh, you're talking about the Good Knight. Okay, I understand.
Mhm,
And so you have these people come and they're like trying to be hired or whatever. And so they help you rescue your Duke. And this is how the game starts. So you're like a resistance, you meet up with these mercenaries fleeing their country or leaving their country or exiled from their country. And they're like, they're kind of OP, at least for your current level, and they help you rescue your duke, who's basically like your governing party of your, I guess, quote unquote country. This is how the game starts. And it gets you to make a decision really early on, which I find chapter one goes by really quickly because it's like it's basically teaching you the game, teaching you the mechanics, teaching you all the little things, giving you some story to keep you interested, but like
mhm.
teaching you a bunch of stuff, which is it's
Yeah,
basically
it's
like
world building. It's giving you
yeah,
a
it's world
background. Yeah.
building and letting you get used to things, which I really appreciated being a big noob in this kind of stuff. I was very happy with the handheld holding and the,
Mhm.
oh, I'm going to shoot this character. Why did I just shoot my character in the back? Oh no, there's friendly fire. I
Yeah,
did
friendly
that
fire was
so
definitely fun to work around.
I did that so much when I first started this game. I shot
Oh,
people with
no.
magic. I shot them with arrows in the back. I at one point knocked Denim down, and I was like,
Holly, oh, no.
right at the start. I was learning. And then I realized I probably pay attention to the little directional things. It tells you who you can and cannot hit at that angle.
Mhm.
And if I started to learn if I moved my characters around, they wouldn't hit each other. Like we started to learn. It was great. I
Oh my
definitely made
goodness.
Key die a lot, but he never perma died, so it's
Yeah, I
okay.
didn't lose I didn't
I
nobody in
just
my
got him
party
back for
perma
all the
died.
really shitty tier lists. That's all.
There you go. Yeah, none of my characters perma died. I don't think you lost anybody either, did you?
Nope.
Okay.
Nope, not even at the end, which I'm
Yeah.
pretty proud about.
I
But we'll
had
talk about that.
characters I definitely had characters downed at the end, but they didn't die.
Yeah. Yes, I ended up at the end with, like, 2 down characters, but they
Yeah.
didn't die, yeah. Yeah, so I never ended up with a permanent death one, and if I did, I restarted the battle because I was like, "Okay, I think I could do this differently." And
Okay.
there was a good thing reason why I had done that because I ended up with plot characters that way a couple times because I didn't end up
Oh, okay.
killing them. And No Girl gave me the idea. I didn't think this game went this far. I didn't realize some of the battles where you were, like, instructed to kill somebody and somebody was in the way as like a guest character, if you just didn't kill them, it would change the outcome of the battle, which I thought was really interesting. And I didn't know it
Mhm.
was that in depth until No Girl had made a mention because I was like, apparently I could get this character on this route. And she's like, maybe just don't kill her. And I was like, okay, I'll try that. And then ever since then, like she didn't spoil anything for me, but it was enough of a tip that I'm like, oh, and it changed my whole perspective of this game. So there's so many times where I just purposely weren't killing people to see if I could recruit them
Yeah,
at some point
we were
later down
team
the road.
chaos. We killed almost everybody.
Yeah, KJ
I
KJ except for KJ getting on Team Chaos and like doing the more morally right thing to get on there, still murdered everybody in his path.
but
Um
they were all attacking us. Like I did what I had to
so
do for the Fedora fam. We were there. We made sure that we weren't like we made sure that we were good. Nobody died. except for the people that were
Community just
attacking
wanted
us.
more members. We just wanted more members. We wanted to recruit everybody.
Yeah, see that
Everybody was welcome. As
I
pissing
really wish
KJ
you would
off.
have gotten the other ending just because that mindset would have been so funny. But so let's
I'm
talk
gonna
about the end
let
of
you
chapter
talk
1.
about the end of end of chapter 1, and this is a little bit of spoiler if you wanna know how to go the different routes,
Yeah.
so, if you don't wanna know how to go to the different routes, turn down the volume a little bit, but I'm gonna let KJ take it away because he went a certain way, I went a certain way,
Yep.
and he was so mad at me for going this way, but, it was kinda funny because it's way against what I would have actually done, but
So at the end of chapter 1, your basically commanding officer is like, "Hey, the Duke wants you to um slaughter some of our people that we just rescued, basically, and blame it on the other people. That way that way we can like get everybody to buy in and like rally everyone around us." And so there are two options. You can either say, "Oh yeah, sure, I'll do it," or you can be like, "Nah, fuck that. We're not doing that. Like these are our people." So, me being me, I'm like, "Fuck that. I'm doing the moral thing. Like, I'm not going to kill our people. Let's square up. Like, you want to say, let's kill these people? Fuck that. I'll kill you instead. And then everything will be all right." Well, that's not what ends up happening. And immediately by saying you're not going to side with them, you lose Vice. So Vice immediately becomes like, fuck that, we need to kill them. We have to win this war. And then Ravnus, who is there, another character, she actually ends up getting attacked and dies.
Vice killed
So
her.
she immediately gets locked out of your party. Like you
This
can't
is
get
why
her.
KJ hates Vice. Vice killed her
Yeah.
on him.
So I was like hyped about getting this character, and then she dies. And I'm just like, you got to be fucking kidding me. So I had to then fight to like escape that area. And then from then on out, the rest of the game, your party is on the run, pretty much. Like you're effectively a fugitive, and like you're now in the middle of all this war, and you're like, you don't have a side. And the Duke spun everything so that he made it seem like you were responsible for the atrocities that happened at that area, like at that battle. So it ends up being like you're basically fighting an uphill battle, and everybody's like, "Oh, like there's a bounty on you. People are trying to kill you in that front." There are some
KJ's still mad I
characters.
recruited one of his bounty hunters.
Oh, that guy is the fucking worst. Uh, but yeah, and you do end up recruiting some characters that are like they come around because they realize like, hey, you did the right thing. But oh my goodness, that was wild. And that was basically like chapter 1 into chapter 2. I won't talk about the chapter 2 decision. I don't know if our chapter 2 decisions were the same because I think your
I
chapter 2 is a bit different. So yeah,
yeah.
let's hear about what happens when you do the other thing.
So I went into this. I did do what KJ did because that was my instinct. So when I first played this game, my decision at the end of chapter 1 was I'm not killing innocent people. Are you insane? And I went against it. And that ends up being the chaos because you're not being law abiding. So,
Exactly.
it's kind of like a commanding officer telling you to do something, you're supposed to do it. That's the law. But chaos route is like you're deviating from that and thinking for yourself. So I did the same thing. And when Vice turned around and shot and killed Ravnus, I was like, no, you were the cool one. I wanted you. You were like really cool. What the heck? And the funny thing is I got partway through chapter 2 before changing my mind and going through the running away, having all these bounty hunters come after you and stuff like
Mhm.
that. I felt like I was separated from the plot, which you kind of are just like trying to exist in a world that hates you anyway.
Mhm.
And like the governing powers are all, squabbling and doing their thing or whatever, and you're just kind of running away and trying to stay alive and trying to like clear your name and be like, hey, I didn't do this thing. And Vice is a grade A jerk in that route. And
Oh yeah,
so I
he's
was
the
like,
worst.
okay. Yeah. And
He
the
gets what he
reason
deserves
why
though.
the worst is he explains why he doesn't like you. And the reason why he doesn't like you is because he tried to give your sister an apple and she gave it to you, and this was the big like, how dare you give my affection away to your brother kind of thing. And I'm like, really, Vice? Really, this is why you hate me, because my sister wanted to feed me instead of taking your apple of love and affection, and you're pissed off at this. Okay, you were a child. Like, you were a child.
Vice is the
So I was
worst.
like, okay. So when I got partway through that route, I was like, KJ's definitely going this route because it like morally
Wow.
we both aligned on that. But it was also, I was kind of getting a little bit bored of kind of always just running for my life. And I'm like, I kind of want to see what happens the other way. I want to know if I'm more involved in the actual story of politics. So instead of not killing the innocent people, I followed orders like a good soldier. Casey's just so mad at me right
The
now. I
disappointment
followed
is real.
orders like a good soldier and carried out my commanding officer's wishes. Vice still turns on you, only this time Vice is like, "Hey, you slaughtered a bunch of people. I'm not cool with that." And I'm like, "You know what? You do you. You're not you're not exactly wrong in this." Um and at the start, Vice is pinned to our it's pinned. Vice is trying to tell the world that you did what you did, but it's also your commanding officer. So it's your name and the commanding officers that are spun around that slaughtered these people. Vice is trying to make this
Mhm.
resistance while you are abiding by the Duke and you're trying to like combat that thing. So you still get blamed for it either path you do.
Okay.
um, it's just my path, you were more involved with the politics and you got to see kind of like you were more in with the like what the Duke was doing and stuff and more engaging with that
It
and having to
also
like strategically save towns and like save people and stuff like that. You slowly start to uncover through my route rather than being chased by bounty hunters. You start to uncover that your mission is to get rid of your governing party because it'll save hundreds of thousands of lives. So my route ended up being the needs of the many outweigh the needs of the few. So while you did a horrible, awful thing, and the game likes to remind you of that, it slowly bees that Denim is like, yes, I know I'm living with this heavy heart, but I gotta do the right thing. I need to say the thing. And he starts to understand that he has to get rid of the Duke. He has to, Vice isn't entirely wrong. He kept being like that with Vice, like, you're not wrong. I understand what I did was wrong. Katua is just kind of like, my brother. And like, you're like, okay, you're just going to stick with me no matter
yep.
what. And certain characters like Ravnus are so appalled you did this. She gets into a battle with you. But if you don't kill her, she takes off. And then she starts to understand, being like, are you just a genius? Because you're saving hundreds of thousands of people. And while a few people did die, she's like, you're spending your whole life making up for it. And she's just like, okay, a soldier sometimes has to get their hands dirty, and that doesn't necessarily mean it's a good thing, but the outcome ends up being a thing. So it was an interesting, like, very opposite storylines you could go, very opposite, like, way of thinking. And it kind of aligned a little bit with just our world in general of like, soldiers are told to do what they do and like
Mhm.
kill who they kill. Is that on them or is that on their commanding officers or is that on the governing parties calling all the shots? And who do you blame in this hierarchy? And yada, yada, yada. And can you necessarily desert? In KJ's route, technically he deserted. So they blamed everything on him. And so he was running around for his life and trying to survive. In my route, they still were trying to blame it on me, but they were also like, hey, you followed orders. And the decision at the end of chapter 2 for me was basically my commanding officer going, I'm going to take the fall for this because I made you do it. I made you do it.
Oh,
I need to sacrifice my life because it's my fault you did this thing. So
interesting.
you are going to avenge the people. You are going to lead them the right way. And while that's not going to clear your conscience, at least the people will get what they deserve. So he, like, the commanding officer kills the Duke and then gets you to kill him. So then you become a hero.
Huh.
And Radnus
So
is like, yeah, okay, I get it. I see your
did you end
side.
up hold on. Did you end up on the lawful route still, or did you end up on
No,
the
it was still
neutral route?
lawful. It still said the owl.
Really?
Yeah,
Okay.
it was I don't know what the neutral could have been because your route it like made sense because you were like, I'm not gonna I'm gonna go against my governing party, which made sense,
Mhm.
but it also like you have to fight bounty hunters, all that stuff, and then eventually you work your way through it. In mine though, it was weird, like, yeah, it still ends up being like you're at the end, at least for me, at the end of Disc 2, my commanding officer kills the Duke and then goes to you, and it's like
Oh.
I'm gonna sacrifice my life because it's my fault you did that thing. I'm the
And
one to
did you
blame
have
for the
the
slaughter.
decision to do that, or did he just say that?
Yes. Yeah. You
Oh.
had a decision. You
Huh.
had a decision whether you killed the Duke or he killed the Duke. And I said I should kill the Duke because it's wrong for what he did. I want to save hundreds of thousand lives and make up for what I did. And because of that, the commander
Oh.
officer was like, I'm going to do it and take the flaw up because you're doing the right thing.
Interesting. Okay.
Yeah, it's I wonder if I would have said, "No, I won't kill him," if that would have put me on the neutral, because that would have shown that I didn't have the people's best interest in heart. Like, "Oh, no, I wasn't gonna kill the Duke." No, I was killing the Duke. Like, my decision at
Mhm.
that point was like, "Nah, I did this horrible thing. I'm trying really hard to save the people. This guy's gotta go. If he goes, thousands of people live. So I'm gonna
Okay.
get rid of him."
Interesting. Yeah. So my it's really funny because so my like the chaos route um ends
Yeah,
up
I didn't get to the end of the chapter 2, so I have no idea from then on your route.
so the chaos route, the way it ends up, you end up getting to meet up with the commanding officer, and he gives you an opportunity to join him again. If you join
Oh.
him, then it's him and Vice, and he's like, "Oh, join us! Like, come back and do the right thing." And I was like, "Fuck that! I'm not joining you." And then you have to fight him, and then you kill him. If you don't kill him and you join him, you end back up on the neutral route. If you do kill
Oh.
him, you stay on the chaos route. I fucking killed him. And at the end, he was basically like, "You're doing the right thing." And see, I think the biggest thing, like,
I think we end up at the same point,
we do.
even though we've gone 2 very different ways, unless you would have taken the neutral, because it sounds like the neutral would have been you would have been siding with these awful people in the end, and it would have changed,
Um,
right?
I
Or
still don't think so. I think that the end result truly is truly based on the chapter 4 decision, I think. Um but yeah, in general, like I I think what it really comes down to is the the decision that you made in chapter 1 makes Vice a more interesting character because
yes.
he then has this like
He has a
he
reason
feels
to be
this
mad at
he
you
has this
instead of
flaw.
something petty.
Yeah, he has this flaw and he can like it really puts him in a spot where it's like, "Oh,
He really grows up in my route. So, like,
mhm,
he goes in this resistance, says, "Hey, you did this wrong thing." But then as he grows, he kinda sees, "Oh, okay, I get it. This person needs to go. You gotta get in close to get rid of this person so that the
mhm,
rest of the people." He sorta sees your point. He still does little jabs at you being like, "Haha, I didn't do that thing." But he grows a lot and he stops being so like aggressive. He stops being like, I'm gonna fight everybody. Like he learns a lot in my route. So it was hard to like I didn't like him because I knew your route of him. So I was just like,
True.
"Yeah, Vice is kinda eh me." But he grew on me because, like I said, he grows up too. So it's like you and Denim and Vice actually kinda, like, go through this huge, like, growing up, becoming men men, becoming warriors or whatever kind of people, and, like, really understanding what it means to be a man of the people, and what it means to put the people before yourself, and why while like the blood of innocents are on his hands, that's the hands of a lot of soldiers and a lot of people, and that what can you do still like that to make things better. And I thought that was really interesting with Vice is that he has a thing. Whereas in your route, it's like it's such a petty reason he hates you. It's so stupid. It's so stupid. And then he's just a jerk the whole
Mhm.
time that
No,
you're
he's
just like,
awful.
okay, he's
He's such a shitty
awful.
person.
Yeah, he's such a he doesn't grow, he doesn't improve, he doesn't change from his like, "Imma fight you," and being very aggressive and angry and all that sort of stuff, and then, so it's very interesting at how much Vice changes as a character, and in my route, he's recruitable
Yeah,
because he does grow and
in
learn.
my route, he ends up getting fucking the guillotine.
Yeah, yeah,
They
which
cut that
makes
motherfucker's
sense
head off,
because
and
he,
I was like, "Holy shit."
he did a horrible thing and kept doing horrible things,
Mhm.
whereas Denham did this thing his commanding officer did, and then spends his whole time making up for it to do all these good things.
Yeah.
So it's like you could kinda be like, Denham the whole time, it's just like, like, I still have a heavy heart. Am I doing the thing?
Mhm.
And he's encouraged by people of like, just keep like don't live for yourself, live for the people. Like, do it for them. And he's like, okay. And whereas in your route, like Vice doesn't learn shit, gets worse, keeps
Yep,
doing horrible
and then
things,
eventually they
deserves
betray
his
him.
outcome because he's just a horrible person. And it's
Like I said,
really
then eventually he gets
interesting.
betrayed, like, and they
Yeah,
end up killing him.
yeah. And so I thought it was really interesting in my route because he 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 kind of has this bit of a rivalry with you, but he understands you in the end. And then when he joins you, he's like, "You did what I couldn't,
Mhm.
and I'm gonna be mad at you for being able to do that because it proves that how weak I was at the time. I was weak and I didn't think of the grander scheme." And then Denham admits being like, I didn't realize the grounder outcome either. I thought following orders was the way to go as a soldier. I realize that's wrong. That's not going to change the world. But these governing parties need to go because they're not thinking about the people. And he's like, yeah, it's always
Mhm.
about the people. So both of you like align, being like, follow the people. And
Pretty
it's like
much.
it's such a bonding moment that I'm like, all right, Vice, you could be my party now.
See, no, I totally still wouldn't have kept him. I'd have been
And
like, "Nah,
he's
fuck
the
you."
one who has the abilities like ninjas where he could do the double attack, but
Yeah,
he has
he's a good
double the
unit.
strength.
He's a
He
good
is
unit, yeah.
so strong. And I was like, also he can like huck things across the battlefield, which is so
Mhm.
handy. I had him with all my healing items so that he could just like huck them at people while in the middle of battle. It was so satisfying. I was like, Vice, you've just grown on me.
Wow.
But so our decision at the end of the game ends up in the same result because the Duke dies in yours too, right?
Yeah,
And does
but it's
Leonard, like, the
it's
commanding
the
officer does too? Like
yep,
Leonard?
we kill the commanding officer, the Knights of Lotus turn on everybody else.
Okay, okay.
Yeah, so
Similar concept to what I have. So we
exactly, and
we end up
so
kinda in the same direction by chapter 3 more or less, except for just
chapter 3, you're still kind of putting everything together. The end of my
okay.
chapter 3, I killed Oz and Ozma. Um,
Okay. Those are the 2 that I was trying to see if I could recruit them,
and you
so I
can
didn't get
recruit
them.
both of them, I'm pretty sure. There
Can
was
you do
no
Oz?
I th actually, I don't know if you can recruit Oz, but I know you had Ozma.
Yeah, I had Ozma. Yeah.
Ozma's a lawful route only. So I did a bunch of reading
Okay.
afterwards, and I was like, "Oh,
Okay.
okay."
Yeah,
Yeah, the
because I
only
tried to get Oz. I tried every way, and it was not. You had
I
to.
had to I had to kill Oz and Ozma. There was no not killing them. And that
Yeah, for
fight,
yours, there because,
yo, that might have
it's
been the second
weird.
hardest fight in the game. That fight was so difficult.
Oof, yeah. Well,
That fight was
Ozma's
rough.
goated and, like, a little bit cheap with that charm move
She
she
never
has.
used charm
Oh,
against
she never used that against you. You're
no,
lucky.
but
She used it against me when I was
She just did
trying to recruit
stupid
her.
damage. She did
Had a
such
fun time.
ridiculous damage.
Yeah, she's
Um,
very strong.
did you get the necromancer?
No, I don't think I
Okay.
could get that one person.
I think you could. I think the
Oh, could I?
necromancer,
Okay.
yeah, I think the necromancer was recruitable, but I think it was like you had to go through the Palace of the Dead and stuff like that.
Oh, I didn't do any of
I
that,
didn't do
no.
the Palace of the Dead either. Yeah.
Okay, okay, yeah. So we both
We
had this option of getting that character, we both
Yep.
just didn't do that side bit. I was already so far behind you, even though I was still doing I did some side stuff, and I got some side
Yeah,
characters,
you got, like, the
but that looked
pirate.
too long, 'cause it
Yeah.
was like I had to do 4 different separate things, and then you got
Mhm.
to the palace, and then apparently it was floors. So there was, like, more
Yeah.
of it. And I'm just like, that sounds like too much work." So I, like, avoided that. There's a guy with his griffins you could get too, apparently, and I never got him
Oh,
either,
yeah.
for a similar reason.
I didn't get, like, any of those characters. I if they weren't presented to me mostly in story, I was like, "Oh, no." And yeah, so it was Oz and Ozma and then, like, 10 Templars. It
Yeah, and it
was
was, like, the first time you
so
fought
rough.
Templars too, so you're like,
No, 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 no.
"No,
That
no,"
was not the first time
but it was the first time you had, like, 2 strong units with all the Templars, isn't it?
it's the first time I had 2 strong units with the Templars, yes, but, like, they were chapter 3 was, like, the chapter of Templars.
Oh,
Every
that's
battle I
true,
was in
like,
had
every
Templars.
battle had Templars. Yeah, mine route too.
Okay. I wasn't sure
Yeah,
if that was the
almost
case.
like, about halfway through chapter 3, it was just Templar battle after
Mhm.
Templar battle.
Yeah, that
But
was
for
rough.
me, I think when I fought Oz and Ozma, it was one of the first Templar battles I had, but maybe I'm
Oh,
misremembering.
okay.
I just remember being it's stupid hard, but it was also I had to keep Oz, or so it wasn't Oz and Ozma I fought, it was Oz and the other guy. Um,
Oh, okay. Yeah, see, it was Oz and Ozma, and that was a struggle, and that was
yeah.
the end of chapter 3. And
Whereas
then
for Ozma and me, Ozma's in a different battle, and it's because of, so there's a party member you got too, but because you did that battle and killed them, they never had the connection. So because you have to fight Oz and Ozma for like earlier before you get do you get like did you have Hoberim before them or after?
Before.
Oh, you did have them
Yeah,
before. That's weird
Hoverim's
then.
before.
I wonder why you
He was,
can't
like,
get Ozma in your route if you
early
got
chapter
Hoberim.
3. I think he was early chapter because you have to kill Ozma in our route.
Oh, maybe that's
There's
it.
no there's no saving her, like, you
There's no
fight Oz
saving
and
her. Okay.
Ozma in the castle in the end of chapter 3. It's
Okay.
set in stone,
Where
like
it's Oz and the other guy for me, and the other guy still flees, but Ozma dies.
okay, yeah, see,
And
no,
it's
it
the other
was
guy of the Dark Knights there or whatever. He ends up surviving in the end. He was one of the guys who survives.
okay, yeah, no, that
That
was
battle was a pain in the ass because that was the one where they were the stairs and stuff like that, right?
oh, yeah,
Was
yeah,
that
yeah,
that?
it was the
Yeah.
same thing. It was
It
like, there was
it
a
was all these
staircase.
Templars and those 2 things. Oh my god, that stair
Okay,
battle
so it sounds like
sucked.
you fought the same fight just with different
Just different,
main
which
character.
is
Okay,
interesting to me because in order to get Ozma, the whole story of Ozma, and she ends up being, like, a really interesting character to me, like, she's still a
okay.
little bit crazy, but not as crazy as her twin, and it's Hoberim that you get in chapter 3,
The Swords
um
Master.
Swords master, yeah, he's a blind swords master. You find out that he and Ozma have some sort of history,
Okay.
and she keeps being like, "Oh, Barim, is that you?" And he's like, "No, I'm just a blind guy." And she's like, "No, it's you." And he's like, "No, I'm a blind guy." And you're like, "What? Why are you not like admitting this?" So they all try to like swarm and kill him, and then you save him. And if you make sure he doesn't die, he joins your party. And
Mhm.
so I didn't realize this because I just kept him in my party because he was really strong, but apparently I wouldn't have gotten Ozma if I didn't have his loyalty maxed out.
Oh, interesting, okay.
So because he was loyal to me and his maxed out loyalty, you get an option in your fight with Ozma to tell her you're Hoberim. You are who she thinks you are, or you
Oh,
don't.
that's pretty cool.
If you don't, I think it ends up that you kill her. But because I chose, yes, I'm Hoberim, she's like, "Oh my god, I thought you were dead. Like, I thought you they told me you were dead. Like, what I don't know what to believe anymore," and her whole world starts to come apart. And
Wow.
you make it so that you don't kill her, and then it's
Mhm.
found out that this is really messed up. But the brother of Hoberum,
Mm-hmm.
um, so he didn't like how his parents were running things and killed them, and then
Huh.
blamed it on Hoberum, and then Hoberum got tortured and his eyes yanked out for killing
What
his
the?
parents and the leaders of their
Wow.
thing. And Ozma was betrothed to marry Hoberum, and she was told he was dead for his
Oh.
crimes about killing his parents. Reality was he wasn't, and he escapes and survives, but he ends up being a thing. It's so messed up. And then they
Wow.
interact, and Ozma's like, I think, and Hoberum's like, I don't blame you. And is like, I don't blame you for what you did. They told you lies. They have been lying to you your whole life. They're the reasons I'm blind. They're the reasons this war is getting worse. Then. And Ozma's like, I will never leave your side again. And it's really sweet and touching
Oh.
because they reunited after all those years. And she's like, all right, I'm joining your party. And Denham's like, do I have a say? She's like, you don't got to say.
Okay. So his brother,
I'm being with Hoberum. Like,
I
it's
didn't
really sweet.
realize, and I guess it's because I didn't really dive into his backstory. So his brother is one of the one of the Dark Knights.
Hmm. Yep. And their
Okay.
parents were like running a city or like a country or whatever, and his brother did not like the way Hoberum was like running, or parents were running things, so he murders them and then blames it on Hoberum. So they like torture him. They tried to get him to admit that he did it. They took his eyes out. It was
What?
horrifying. That you only learn
Wow.
this on the law route because of Hoberum's loyalty to you. He tells you all of this
See, he
before
was
you.
loyal. All of my characters had maxed out loyalty because
Yeah.
I did things that they appreciated and like,
Yeah, Hober literally, you just kept him in the party and he
yeah.
thought you were like, "Hey, you're making use of a blind man. I'm happy with you." Like he was just like, and you're fighting the Dark Knights,
Wow.
which he wanted his revenge on. He's like, "I have one purpose in this life, and it's to
Hmm.
get the revenge on these people." And then and Denham's like, "I'm not gonna pry. You got your business, but we have the same goal. Let's work together." And he's like, "Cool." And then when you end up
Wow.
with Ozma and she's like, "I want the whole story. What the hell happened?" He tells you and Ozma, and Denham's just like, oh, they gotta go. Like, oh, I want to kill him even more. And Hoberum's like, oh, we agree. And Ozma's like, oh, I want the finishing blow. And like they all align together, realizing just how horrible these people are. And it's just so awful what Hoberum went through. But then Ozma's like, I will never leave your side again. And it's very sweet. I was like teary eyed. Like, she's like, oh, so she gets uncrazy. And then she ends up being like your fiercest loyal ally because you saved her true love. And like, she like just was like all over that. And I'm like, oh, you're so
Wow.
strong. She had whip moves that could hit targets from far away. It was beautiful. And she hit hard. Like
Yeah,
she was
see,
doing
I
like
never
600 to 1,000 damage each hit. It was incredible. Like she was so
that's
incredible. But
wild.
it's like her whole story and Hoberid's story was just very like very messed up, but also very touching that they found each other again. And then he's like, "Are you sure you still want to be with a man who's blind?" Like, and she's like, "Oh,
Mhm.
shut up." She's like, "Oh, shut up." Like this had nothing to do with the reason why I loved you and why we were going to get married and blah blah blah. So it was just very sweet. Um,
Wow.
yeah, so that was one of the more, like, on my route only, interesting plot lines. I think one of the other ones was, like, Ravnus. So,
Mhm.
she doesn't like you, she flees the battle, and then everybody's like, because she has mixed blood, everybody feels like she's not a Wallister or a, Galgastan, which is the 2.
Oh, that
So,
makes
she keeps getting, like, chased all the time and attacked by people, and so you save her again. And so you go through, you save her again. And then the final time where you can recruit her, um, after all that she's been through, she realizes the route you would have taken had
sense.
you done that, and you would have been fighting for your life and unable to like get to do more for the people than what you end up doing. And she basically takes your route and then realizes, hey, I get why you did what you did. I really want to contribute. I really want to help with this. And you're like, okay, yeah, join me. And then she joins you, if you save her the third time. um
Okay.
but yeah, so like I went through and I got as many side characters as I could through chapter 3 and chapter 4.
It seems like
I
there are more lawful
I
route
think there's
characters.
more,
Yeah,
yeah, and
I'm looking at the guide right now, and it seems like there's more lawful than there is. And it's
it
funny
feels like
because
plot-wise, you get more plot in my route than your route because 'cause you're just trying to survive.
Mhm,
So, it and you don't get access to a lot of these characters because you're not in the political sort of sense of things. You're just kind of fleeing for your life. So you get kind of running in with the other fleeing kind characters and stuff. So yeah, it felt like there was less characters on your route. And then there was also like less of the over encompassing plot um of everything in your route too. So it was very strange. It was almost like yeah. But we lead to the same point, which is really interesting. So one of the bounty hunters that KJ really hates in my route, he's not going around trying to kill me.
nope.
He's actually trying to get one of the Dark Knights, and he gets kind of like cornered off in one of the things. So you could choose to save him or not save
Mhm,
him. And I saved him, and he ended up being a really strong unit for me too because he was a berserker, and so he got like the berserker mode, and so yeah, Zapan, that's it,
mhm.
Zapan, and he's kind of funny because they definitely played him over with like the dwarf Scottish kind of like Viking. That's it, more like Norway, like my Norway Viking kind of like voice and appearance and stuff like that with him. And I
Mhm.
found it really interesting because like him and Denim had this like kind of like he's like I'm gonna just defeat the boar. And Denham's like, why are you making this a challenge? He's like, it's a challenge, and I want to fight everybody. And it's really funny.
He was the worst.
But I ended up having him a lot in my party because he was my first berserker.
I
Um,
didn't use Berserker, like the Berserker class at all, funny
oh,
enough.
you didn't use berserker at all.
Nope.
Oh,
I didn't use the Berserker class at all.
and I liked it because it could hit multiple squares.
Mhm.
So I found that really handy when you were like at like when you had like a gathering of like enemies, you just send the berserker in with his berserker mode activated and he goes whack 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 whack. I always used to like power him up and then he
Oh,
hit
yep.
people in like a 6 square radius. Oh, you would just kill everybody and it was so satisfying.
See, I really didn't I don't know, I didn't like I said, the the class that I really vibed with was Valkyrie, and so, like, I had
Oh, they were
multiple
really strong.
Valkyries, and they all had different magic and, like, different they were all different, like, had different usefulness, so I just, like, overran people with Valkyries. By chapter 3, I got, Saria and I had Sistina, and, like, they were just so fucking good. Um,
Valkyries were really powerful. I didn't
yeah.
even change Ravnus. So Ravnus could have been a white knight, but I thought she was
Oh,
stronger as a
White Knight's such
Valkyrie.
a broken class, though.
Well, with me is
Mhm,
I because she could use the magic attack, her spirit surge that I put her on,
mhm,
especially at level 3 when you can get it like the max level,
mhm.
did crazy damage. And I just left her as being both a healer and magic damage user as well as a Valkyrie. Even
Okay.
though her stats went up a little bit,
Mhm.
I just found it meshed better for what I wanted her to do because I used her a lot less for healing and a lot more for doing magic from far away and attacking from further away. And I found that a lot more useful because I didn't use a whole lot of mages. I found I didn't really rely on the mage class, so I still needed a
Really?
few people with a little bit magic.
I
Yeah.
had one dedicated mage, but then other than that, I had almost all of my characters had magic in some
Oh,
way,
okay,
shape,
yeah,
or
that makes
form.
sense.
Whether it was like the ninja sword magic or whether it was like actual magic, everybody had some sort of magic. And yeah, it just worked out really well.
Yeah, and,
Um
like, Shane was my mage for, like, the longest time.
mhm.
But for me, I always, like because it was, like, a little area effect or whatever, I sometimes was hitting my own party members, and then I found the magic damage didn't paled in comparison to, like, my warriors attacking and things like that. So for some reason, I just was like, "Eh," I strayed away, and like you said, I had Ravnus as my Valkyrie. I had the 2 White Knights in my party, so I got both of them. So I got, um the guy with the G and the one with the M. It was like
Oh, yeah, yeah,
Murden.
yeah. I got both of them as well, but I only used Gildas.
Yeah, I put one of them with a spear and I put the other one with a greatsword.
Okay.
So they attacked a little differently, which was very handy in the final fights and the end fights and stuff I had to do. But yeah, so
Mhm.
they were two, and then I had Ravnus as my Valkyrie. But I also used like a berserker, I used a warrior. I had a really mixed balance by the end. I had Vice,
Same.
who was just a great double attacker.
Mhm.
Um, I had I had Katua in the end with the princess class because that was just fucking extreme. I
Yeah, the
ended up
princess class is
not needing a
broken.
healer until like I ended up throwing the healer into like the last couple of fights.
The
So
princess
that
class was so busted. Like,
so busted because she could heal, she could do magic.
yep.
Like
And she saved my ass against undead because there was so
because she had
long
the
where I didn't run
exorcism,
into any
yeah.
undeads that as soon as I started running into them, I didn't have anything to exercise. I got rid of almost everything, but she had a skill that she could exercise things, and I was like, okay, cool, we're good. I don't have to worry about this. Like, just please get rid of all of these undead.
Yeah, and I had Sky. So Sky I had a Sky character
Hmm.
and I ended up turning her into a witch to try to recruit golems and stuff like that. And she did pretty good. And I would throw
Okay.
her in when I was doing any like big boss fights and stuff like that because her magic really helped with like the units far away and everything.
Hmm.
Until I got Sherry accidentally. Sherry was a complete accident. I'm like, oh, so I let her live in her fight. So I
Hmm.
got her down to critical health and she didn't die. She knocked me off the map, the little jerk, but
Oh yeah, see, I rushed her. That was one of the easiest late game maps. I just rushed her and she lived. I just didn't go get her.
yeah, so she teleports, she like goes away. And this was a complete accident. And then looking at how specific it had to be, I'm like, how
It
did
has
I
to
get
be
this character?
raining. It
Yeah,
has to be
it has to.
raining in a certain, and you have to then go to a certain area.
So I was backtracking to do a side thing,
Hmm.
and it hit that town on the way, and all of a sudden it triggered it because it was raining. And I didn't do
Mm.
anything to make it rain. I hadn't done any weather thing. I just ended up stumbling into her and I'm like, "What? Okay, I got it." And then when I beat the game, I actually looked up and I was like, "Oh my god, that scene would have never triggered if it wasn't raining."
See,
And I was like, "How?" It
I'm
was
really
so
interested
arbitrary.
because like she was the only sister I didn't get.
And she was the witch.
Yeah. Well, and
So
that
she
was
had the
that was
area
like her
AoE.
sisters were OP. Like one of them, she had a one of the sister with the cleric was broken,
Oh yeah, I had
and
her in my party like late
the two
game, like
Valkyries were super clutch. Like they were some of my best
I
units.
wish I had the Valkyries. I think I probably would have forego one of the White Knights if I had like the Valkyries, but I had already like used other characters. So like my Valkyries were Ravnus and then my two ones that I hired, which were Kane and Cat.
Hmm.
But I didn't end up leveling them up at a certain point because I just was having so much fun with like the story characters and stuff. And then I even got the Buccaneer class, which is only one
Didn't
character in
get
the
that
game.
class either.
And it's a whole side story, and it's the only pirate character.
Hmm.
And this was a funny thing. He's what the game's named after.
Huh?
So in chapter 3, chapter 4, you're able to do these side quests to get this
Mhm.
pirate guy. And he's like a lone wolf and he doesn't want to work with you, blah, blah, blah. But you want to go check out basically Treasure Island, more or
Yep.
less, is what it is.
Yeah. Yeah.
So you have to do a bunch of side quests to do that. And then in the final like bit, you don't have to do the whole Treasure Island thing, but you get to a certain level and he comes in and he ends up joining you because he's like, "Okay, you're being really persistent. Fine, I'll join you," kind of idea.
Yep.
But it's really interesting because Zappin, the bounty hunter type character turns
Mhm.
to him and goes in battle is like, "Wait, aren't you the Ogre Reborn?" And he's like, "Shh, no."
Huh?
He's like, "No, no, no, you're totally." He's like, "You're dressed all in red. You look like a pirate. Like you were definitely the Ogre Reborn who slaughtered all those people at sea." And he's like, "Shh," and he's like, "Stop." revealing this. So he literally calls him the Ogre Reborn
Huh.
because he was considered like this tyrant. He did some pretty awful stuff too, and stuff. But like I haven't looked into too much of his backstory because it's not super revealed. And but he was a lot of work to get him. And then they were mentioning that in battle. I'm like, hey, they said the game name. It's like, and I
Oh
sent you
my goodness.
screenshots of it. I'm like, look, they said the game
Yeah,
name, and you're like, what the
I did
hell?
remember you. I did remember you sending that.
Yeah, but apparently it had to do with like, and he was only, so I found out that he was only added in the PSP version of the game. He was
Hmm.
not in the Super Nintendo or the PlayStation
PS1.
version of the
Okay.
game. So when they did it for PSP, they added this extra character, and that's why they called it Reborn, like Tactics Ogre Reborn or whatever in this case, because
Oh,
it's referencing this new character that only came in the PSP version.
interesting.
Apparently he has a huge history and stuff like that too, and he was like, this like crazy pirate and killed a lot of
Huh.
people and blah blah blah.
Did not know that.
Um, but he had an interesting combo where he could use like swords and
Hmm.
guns at the same
Yeah, I
time.
knew you had he was like the gun class.
Yeah.
He was one of the gun classes.
One
There's
of the
another
gun
one.
class. There's two of them. And
Did you get
then
them
once
both?
you got the second one, you could make more.
Wait, did you get both classes?
I did. So I
Oh,
got
I
the
didn't know that.
Buccaneer, and then I accidentally remember when I was like, "Okay, I'm gonna go do the end of the game." I'm like, I got stuck in another side quest, and you're like,
Yep.
"Polly,
Yep.
please beat this game."
Yep. I remember.
And you were so upset. That was the side quest because I thought I could just go two different routes. So I just went up above. I didn't realize it was a side quest thing. And then I'm like, and then
Hmm.
he's like, "Hey, I make guns." And I was like, "Oh, cool. I'm gonna save this guy." And then he's
Hey,
like,
I
"I'm
make
gonna join
guns.
you."
Let me save you.
Yeah, he makes a shotgun. It's great. And then he gives you a bunch of marks where you can then make your own of that class, which is the
Okay.
Faciller or Facilier or whatever
Yeah.
class. And yeah, so I ended up with the Buccaneer and him. I ended up only really using my Pirate Boy because I don't know, I didn't see the need of using both gun characters because they're both range mostly. Um and while my pirate guy could hit people up front and you could switch him to a double attack as well, he was also one of the only classes that could do double, where you'd give him 2 melee and he attacks twice. I kind of liked him with the gun because he looked cool. He's just like
Hmm.
little handgun where you could never get another one of that. You could not make it, and you could not get a better version of it. And
Okay.
I'm like, okay, this gun's OP, and I liked it.
Yeah, you had so
Um,
many characters that I didn't even know existed.
Yeah, but it also sounds like a lot like besides like Azelstan, his name was Azelstan, by the way.
Hmm.
Um, besides him, like a lot of the characters you couldn't get that I got. Like I got Ravnus, you couldn't get
I couldn't get
Ravnus. I
Ravnus. I
got
couldn't get Ozma.
Zapan, you couldn't get
Couldn't get
him.
Zapan.
You couldn't get Ozma. Um,
I could have gotten Sherry. I just didn't.
yeah, and that one
Um,
honestly I almost didn't either because it was an
there
accident.
was there
It
was
just happened
a
to be raining at the town at the time I walked by it.
knight and a wizard that I got to get. Oh, um there was a knight and a wizard that um I I did end up getting, but they weren't very good. Like I didn't really use them, but I used Sistina. Sistina was definitely a character that I used.
Yeah. Um, but we're gonna take a little pause because this is very sweet. And
All right, we're live. Yeah, sorry about that. We had to take a break, but we are back.
we are back.
And
So
I
we finished talking about our characters, Zapan, Azel,
Mhm.
Stan, all the fun side characters that poor KJ didn't get.
Hey, I got
Um,
Sistina. Sistina and her sister, like those Valkyries
you
were
did.
OP. They carried me. Like,
No idea who they are because I never got them in mine.
yo, it's
I
funny
just got
too.
all the double attack characters. That's all.
It's funny because
Azelstan, Ozma, and Vice all did double attacks.
that's ridiculous. Yeah, there was even if I could have gotten Vice, there was no way I was recruiting him. If Vice tried to have a change of heart, I'd have been like, nah, get out of here. We don't.
I
We
sent you a screenshot being like, "Do I decline him?"
yeah, and I
When he
sent you.
like wanted to join me, I sent KJ the screenshot of it. I'm like, "Should I decline him?" And KJ's like, "Oh hell no, I would not
And then I
take him on."
responded with, "In my route, they cut his head off, and I was happy about it."
And in
He was
mine, it's like
such
he
a
becomes your bro,
dirtbag.
and he's like, like we're gonna we do this together, and yeah. So I ended up recruiting him. It's a good thing I did because in the end, he was the only one who could use like single like swords that weren't fancy swords. So like Athelstan used fancy
Oh.
swords. He was my only sword wielder because I had denim with hammers. And looking back, I should have made Denim a freaking sword user, but I made him with hammers. And I was hitting hard really early on. So Vice was my only sword user. So I needed him in the last sequence. So I was glad I was starting to get used to having him in my party. And then Ozma, even though she could double attack, I preferred
Mhm.
her with a whip because she could hit longer, like further away. And that means they couldn't hit her because she's a little squishy if she was getting the, but she did crazy damage. So
Mm.
she was a little bit like weaker in defense, and I think that was to make her so that she wasn't like completely invincible because she was a little too powerful. But
Gotcha. Also, yeah,
um,
Vice did get hung. My apologies. I mixed up. I mixed
oh,
up the execution. Yeah, he got
oh,
hung.
it's hung. Yeah,
Um,
still
he
he went.
still got executed. It was still not. Yeah, he still got executed.
Yeah, he did.
Um,
In yours anyway.
yeah, exactly. Either way, he died. Um, so one of the very, very, I think, controversial uh points of this game, like, was the middle of chapter 4. So I don't want to spoil exactly, like, I don't think we should spoil like the plot twist, but
Okay.
you end up in a point where you're talking to your sister as Denim,
Hmm.
and your decisions determine A, if you recruit her permanently, and B, if she even survives. So, depending on what happens, that actually like that determines, that also determines the end, like your ending as well. And we can talk about that a little bit after this because I think that's kind of like the big major point after that.
Yeah, we'll
Um,
talk about the endings at like the very end. Yeah.
but if you don't
Yeah.
answer her questions appropriately, she like ends up pulling out a knife and killing herself. And it was like, whoa, that was just like so unexpected. And that
Movies got a clip
changes
of
the
it.
like that changes the entire dynamic of
I didn't
after
know that
you beat the game.
happened. Had no idea that happened.
Yep.
KJ said I was coming up to the point where it would decide the end of the game,
Yep.
and I showed him what I did, and he's like, "Oh, you're on my route." And I was
Yeah.
like, "Oh, cool." He's like, and you're like, "Moody did something different. Here's a clip." And I was like, and Moody's reaction was my reaction. We both like, she crazy. Like she's
She,
crazy. Like what the heck? Like what's she
like
doing here?
she just,
What?
and don't get me wrong, I
What?
think there were a lot of
It's
things
so
in her
dramatic.
there were a lot
Why?
of things in her past that kind of
Yeah.
determined what happened. And like why she reacted that way.
Yeah, which I guess if you like put everything together, she kind of
Mhm.
had a bit of like some major like I don't want to reveal the plot like you said that those are fun bits for people to go
Yeah,
play the game
exactly.
because there's a whole story behind why who she is, what she goes through, what Denim goes through. Like it is such an immersive plot line and is so thick with content,
Mhm.
including the side characters with what I got like I explained the Hoberim and Ozma situation that KJ never got to see, where like the poor guy was tortured and exiled, and like they were to be married, and and then they sync up together, and she's like, "I'm gonna stay by you no matter what." And he's like, "Even though I'm blind," and she's like, "That never mattered," and it's just this beautiful romantic story, and you're like, "What?"
I don't know how I
Like
feel about that. Ozma put me through hell, so like,
Ozma's really
oh
mean in your
no,
route, apparently.
Ozma put me through hell.
Yeah, yeah. Ozma put poor KJ through hell, and then for me, I'm like, oh, look at this beautiful love story. They're both crazy together. It's Hoperum and Ozma. Hoberum and Ozma have a love history.
Mhm.
And
I did
I'm
not. Yeah.
like, I was equally confused by this because you like it's such a hard thing to like uncover, and I lucked into it because Hoberum was max loyalty with me, and that's what you need him to be in order for him to give her in order for you to choose an option when you get into the battle with her.
Mhm.
And so Hoberum I kept in the party because he was just super. Swordsmasters were so strong in this game.
Swordsmasters
I
were
had
really good.
Null Girl in my party, like, and then Hoberum. I had two Swordsmasters in my
Oh,
party.
wow.
Null Girl and Hoberum were like my OPs until I got Ozma. And
Mhm.
then so he was in that party, and this whole time she kept trying to like figure out, like, oh, you're Hoberum. And he's like, no, I'm just a blind guy. And she's like, no, you're
I'm just
Hoberum.
a blind guy.
He's like,
What?
no, I'm just a blind soldier. And then you get to this battle, and if his loyalty is max with you, he feels he can trust you and reveal his side. And he gives you an option whether
Mm.
he says, no, I'm just a blind swordsman again, or
Mhm.
he says, yes, I'm Hoberum. Once you say, yes, I'm
Gotcha.
Hoberum, she just like falls apart. She's just, her whole world shatters. She's like, you were
Mhm.
said to be dead, blah 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 blah. You go through the battle, you don't kill her. You kill everything else. You keep her alive. And then you get a like a cutscene between them where Hoberum lets you know, because he's like, "Hey, Dedham, I trust you. I trust everything you're doing. I feel comfortable revealing this, and I need to tell this to Ozma." And she's like, "Yes, please tell me the truth." And like you find out that they were engaged to be married, and then Hoberum's brother, who was a Dark Knight, killed their
Wow.
parents because they had a disagreement. Okay, the disagreement was like something really arbitrary, like slightly difference in ruling. So Hoberum's brother, who was a Dark Knight, was just like, I'm gonna off my parents because I don't like their decisions, and then
What?
blames it on Hoberum because Hoberum wouldn't go along with it.
Yeah,
And
that's
Hoberum
wild.
gets tortured and his eyes ripped out. and then literally like cast out to live in his shame, more or less, and everybody was told he died. And then Ozma
Wow.
thought he was dead. And so she just kind of kept following orders like a good soldier until she found out they were lying to her and that her husband to be is not actually dead.
That's
And he's actually
so
not a bad guy either.
I feel like you got so much more story. And it's really
Yeah, I
interesting
think with the
because
side characters, there's more.
after you beat the game, there's like the coda thing where you can like go back and like do extra stuff. And like you can, and that's actually how you recruit like Lancelot and Warren and characters like that. Like you go back and do the coda route thing. Um, I'm probably not going to do it because like there's too many games to play and revisiting something is really tough for me. Um, but I think it's just like it's so wild that you can do all of these different things and like get so much out of it. Like I don't know. That's
Yeah, and it's so there's the story is so expansive with these
mhm,
side characters too, and they all kinda some of them actually connect to the main plot line. Like Zapan didn't really have a side story, which makes sense because he's just a bounty hunter, right? But
mhm.
like Ravnus did, and you kinda grow with her. Ozma did, Hoberum did, but you only get it if you get through that, and it's crazy that they, like, locked you out of it, because in the end, the only reason Hoberum trusts you is because his loyalty with you is high, but maybe it's because like, in your route, were you, like, even though you were running from people, were you still like, "I'm gonna kill the Dark Knights," or did that not actually really happen in your route? Because in my route, it was like, "Oh, we need to feed this resistance because we have to defeat the Dark Knights and defeat Bakram and yada yada yada."
Yeah, eventually it turned into like, okay, the Dark Knights are pulling the strings. Like, yeah, that's effectively like I think at the end that was the entire thing. Um, but like it's really interesting because so if we talk about the end, I don't want to talk about the like final boss rush because I think that's something that people should just experience.
Experience,
Yeah.
yeah,
I
yeah,
think that's
definitely.
something people should
And
just experience.
you didn't really, like, spoil it, you just helped me get through it a little bit easier because you knew I was gonna
Yeah,
be
it's a grind.
stuck there for a long time.
It can be more of a grind if
Y
you
yeah.
let it be.
But I still got to experience it, and I honestly believe anybody playing this game, you gotta experience that. Like, even if you're like me who never play or like I played a tactics game, I guess, halfway through and gave up Fire Emblem Fates, hee hee.
Don't play
And then bad apparently I picked the Final Fantasy 2 of the Fire Emblem world. And so this I consider Tactics Ogre Reborn my first true tactics game that I played and beat. It was really cool to go through that end sequence like of fights and stuff like that. Like I really liked it. I really liked the experience of it, even though it was like kind of hard for me and everything. Like I think people need to experience that. And so yeah, which leads us into the final with
so.
the bullshit move that I got screwed over in round 1 of.
I think everybody did because it's
I
just a
think
move that.
because it's never used. I don't know if
Yeah,
it's ever used. Like neither one of us went and got the necromancer character. Apparently there was a necromancer character. Neither one of us got it. So I don't know if
I
they
have
could
no
do
clue.
this move.
But
But like
stopping people from being able to heal is complete
to
BS.
revive.
Yeah,
Like Edo can attest. I was screaming at my TV because I could not revive my characters. I was so angry in that end fight.
I tried that fight twice and was like, I'm gonna do this a different day. And then at like 1 a.m, I'm like, couldn't fall asleep, and Peach just passed out, and I was like, you know what? I'm just gonna do this. And I just kept I set everything up and I played it and I ended up doing it. And I was like, all right, I'm happy. We're good. Like I was like, we're good. I beat the game. Let's go. And I don't know. The ending was really interesting. The ending that I got was really interesting because so if the sister stays alive, you get one ending. You're basically guaranteed that ending if the sister stays alive. If you
Okay.
lose her
Yep.
in battle, or if she dies from story, you get a different route. You get a different ending. So
So she perma dies in the end fight. If you use her in the end fight, she perma dies. You get the other ending too.
yeah, it
Oh.
doesn't matter. If you recruit her and she perma dies, you also get this ending. Or you also get the
Oh,
bad
because
ending.
she
Or
can. Only Denim can't.
exactly. Denim's the
Right.
only character that can't die. So yeah,
Oh.
Cashua can die.
Okay.
So
Interesting. Okay.
if you, I guess I'll start. I'll talk about the ending where I'll talk about the other two endings, and you can talk about the one that we got.
Okay.
Um,
Talk about
so
how you experienced the boss fight a few times because I feel really proud of myself on how I did it, but I wanna hear how you
it
did it.
was the first time I didn't equip the broken sword that they give you, and each time I got to the second fight, right? Like each time because it's a 2-part fight. So the first time I got there and I had like absolutely no um I had absolutely no shot of beating it. But I didn't experience the like move that stopped you from being able to heal. So I was able to heal the
Oh.
first time.
Oh, okay. So
The
you never got
second
that the first round.
exactly. But
Oh,
I only did
lucky.
like 1,000 damage or something like that. And
Oh,
then
okay, okay.
and then he killed Denim and I was in a rough spot.
Oof.
Um
Yeah.
and then the second time I got him to like I got him like a little under 2,000, but I couldn't revive people and so I lost. And that was when I was like,
Oh,
"Oh, okay.
that's rough.
Yeah," and I realized
Oh,
in the
I
second
hate
fight
that
when I
move.
couldn't revive, I realized, "Oh, there's an ability. There has to be." And then I started looking through and I was like, "Oh, okay, that's what it is." And then the third time I was able to go in and it was still a freaking struggle. Like I was I did everything that I could to like avoid all the different things, but I was able to do it and pretty comfortably. It was just like it was a war of attrition for sure. Like
Yeah. It's kinda
I
long,
it was a long fight.
you
He has
could
like
you could get it
almost
through, but
5,000
it's a
HP.
long fight.
Yeah, he has almost 5,000 HP. It was
Yeah,
rough.
which is ridiculous because you, like, don't even you hardly get into, like, enemies with 2,000 HP, and they're like, "We're gonna make him with
Yeah,
5."
2,000 to like 2,500 are probably like the highest before that, and
Yeah,
then
and those are,
it
like,
just
the dragons and griffins, basically.
mhm.
Yeah. Yeah, for
Um,
me,
yeah.
the end fight, okay, I think I know talking to KJ and P Stone and other members who did this end fight, I had a little bit of RNG because I think because of the side characters I went and grabbed. So, Ozma
Oh
was
yeah.
really, really strong, and she had an ability that one of her strongest moves that hit the enemy for, like, 1,000 damage potentially could charm them, and I think I just lucked out with charm working with her, or she has a higher to charm stat than other
Hmm.
characters I've ever had. Because I had Slamma in my party and he was my Terror Knight. But I found like in the beginning, I was putting people to sleep all the time and so excited. And then P Stone calls me out in our Discord chat as being like, I never put the people to sleep. What are you talking about? And then suddenly never again. So I ended up yeeting Slamma out of my party. Sorry, Slamma. And because I never could like put people to sleep or paralyze them or charm them anymore. So I was getting really frustrated. But with Ozma, it just kept working almost every time she hit somebody with that really big uber move. It was still one you had to get up to 60. So it was like a 60 finisher move with her whip. So
Hmm.
you know how with like your weapons you could get like finisher moves? Also thought this was cool. You could get like finisher moves if you leveled up your weapons to a certain
Yes,
level,
which was
which I
awesome.
which is so fucking cool. And it depending on which weapons you level up, you get different finisher moves. So for Ozma, she starts off with like a bunch of finisher moves because you get her at such a high level and
Hmm.
with whips. But if you switch her to the dual blade so she could double attack, she has none and you have to level that up. So I just kept her on whips because she had
Mm.
her big finisher moves. And so my first round of the fight, I oh my god, it was bad. He stopped me from resurrecting
Hmm.
like halfway through the first round. The
Wow.
jerk. I had no ability to get rid of it. I didn't have anything equipped because I didn't know that was a thing.
Hmm. And
I
I specifically
like
didn't tell you about it because I didn't want to spoil that surprise.
no, it's good that you did it because it helped me learn kind of the
Hmm.
combat of things, right?
Yeah.
And then in that first phase, it was a real struggle, and he kept killing off like my good characters and stuff. I ended up in second phase with only 4 people. Everybody else was permadead.
Wow, that's rough.
It was rough. Except Ozma almost soloed him. So okay, I don't know RNG magic, but every time he tried to do his big move, Ozma blocked it and resisted it, and it did no damage. And I
What
was like,
kind of
"Excuse
nonsense is
me,
that?
ma'am?" I was like, "What move does this?" I still need to look into it because she kept going resist, and it did nothing.
I
Resist, it did nothing. Like he goes up and attacks her, and she goes deflect,
I want you
and
to
I was like,
know
Ozma,
that final
please.
I want you to know that final fight literally looked like my units were scattered. Like you would just like open a puzzle and just drop the pieces on the floor and just let them like be all over the place.
So
Like
everybody
everyone
went
was all
down.
over the place. I had
Yeah.
to I couldn't keep anyone. I had to basically keep characters within like 3 to 4 squares of each other. That way he could only hit 1 or 2 characters.
And like, yeah, so for the end sequence, he downs everybody. And unfortunately, I learned a lesson this fight. If Denim perma dies, it's game
Yes.
over. That's never happened to me.
Mhm.
So she and Denim were like the last two. Katya perma died, and then one of my white knights perma died. So then those were my final. Oh no, Ravnus. Ravnus perma died. So then
Okay.
I had Denim and Ozma. And so Denim went down and I could not revive anymore because he had that stupid move and I didn't have any way to get rid of that move. It carried on to the second phase, which I thought was BS. I was so mad at it. And so my last sequence in that fight was Denim and he kept because he couldn't hit Ozma, he stopped focusing on her and went after Denim,
Mhm.
knocked him down. And then Ozma kept like doing her big, I kept having her do her big moves and stuff like that. He was down to 1500 health with just Ozma. She was the
That
only
is
one who hit him.
so absurd.
And then Denim perma died and it was game over. And I was so mad. I jumped up. I was so mad. I threw my couch cushion off to the side. I was like, are you kidding me? I would have won. I would have won. Everybody would have been dead, but like I would have won because Ozma just kept resisting his attacks and was not going
So
down.
did that
And I was
happen
like,
the second time you fought her? Or
no.
fought her? Okay. So
As
you did, it
Ozma
was just
almost died
RNG.
immediately.
Okay.
Yeah, so it was RNG. I just had really good luck for phase 1. Or phase 2, sorry. So then I restarted and I was messaging KJ. I was like, okay, this was really hard. I think I
Mhm.
need a tip. KJ went to bed because he had an early morning stream the next day. And
Oh
so
yeah,
this
no,
was
I fell
like
asleep.
Friday night at like midnight. And
Yep.
Anna was going to bed on me too, being like, I'm going to bed. And I was like, okay, I hope I don't scream too loud. And it was just like, oh, it's fine. Keep going for it. So I had a situation where our podcast was supposed to be Sunday. Saturday, I was at my friend's all day. And so I only had that time. And I'm like, I'm going to try it again. Let's try it again. I think I can figure this out. So I equipped the anti revives deflect spell on 2 characters. I could put it on 2 because I put in my healer. I put in my
Mhm.
healer and I had Katua, so I had 2 of them just in case. And then I switched my party order. So I put all my squishy characters in front and all my tanks in the back. So when he spawned first phase, all the squishy characters were in front and all the tanks were
Did
in the
you
back.
So one thing that I did, I ended up making, so because it wasn't just like front and back, like there was a map to it. So I actually ended up um mapping it out, and then I actually looked up a map to make sure that I mapped it out correctly, and I did. But like there was a map to like the placement of the characters. It wasn't that it was just like directly translated.
Oh yeah, so like I guess where I put them, like yeah, it wasn't like a perfect, but a lot
Mhm.
more of the squishy characters were out front.
Yep,
Like the
that's exactly what
healer
I did
was
too.
was within range, but I
Mhm.
didn't realize that. So I didn't look at anything. Like I wanted to try it again on my own and then I was like, okay, then I'll watch a YouTube video and see what
No, that makes
happens.
sense.
Cuz I was messaging you and I figured if you I wasn't sure if you were just busy and you just hadn't responded or if you actually went to bed. So I was
I
like, okay, I'm
passed
going to
out.
try next. Yeah,
I
you
woke
were
up to
out
like
cold cuz
25
then it
messages.
got like the funny thing is KJ woke up to like 50 or it wasn't that bad. It was like
Yeah, it
25
was like 25
DMs.
messages.
And like halfway through those 25, I made the realization, oh my God, it's like 1 a.m. and you're in
Yep.
bed because you have a morning stream the next
Yep.
day. That's why. But like I tried the second one because I was like, I'll try it on my own. So I rearranged my characters a little bit. I wasn't sure if it was going to do anything, but suddenly somehow I lucked out with they had Katua, or they had like the healer and her up front, so I was able to like kill them like that. I was like,
Mhm.
good. You can't heal your people anymore and you can't do area magic against me anymore. Perfect. Done. And then I lucked out with Ozma charming two of the warrior like knight
That's so
characters on their side.
I didn't have that
And
option.
so those two went around and killed everybody in behind for me while I focused in the
Wow.
front. Phase 1, I ended up with not a single downed character.
Dang.
Everybody had decent health, everybody was still up, nobody was down, nobody was permadead. So that was phase 1, and I felt so great. Phase 2, because I remembered he knocked out everybody except for Denim and Ozma in my first phase 2 last time, and I kept seeing he'd do it, but it was like quadrants. So like he would do
Yeah.
his area attack and it would be like
Mhm.
this section or this section. And I'm like, okay, if I keep everybody in the circle where they're all spread out, he can't kill everybody.
That's
That was
exactly
my
what I did, except everybody was like scattered across the map because he has an ability where he can teleport. So because he could teleport,
yeah.
I was like, okay, whoever he ends up teleporting near, like I basically set it up so that I had somebody that could heal in each part of the map, and like they were the designated healer for that part of the map, and then everybody else was just doing damage in some way, shape, or form to that character, like to him, like that. And then like if I needed to
Okay.
revive people, I revive them. But like it ended up working out. I had a dragon that I actually named after our dog. And so
Bowser.
like he was pretty clutch. Canopus was clutch. Hoberum was clutch. Gildis was pretty clutch in terms of like dealing damage, and obviously Denim. Um, and even the dragoons once they got there, or the two Valkyrie sisters when they got their specials. But it was such a like war of attrition for me just because I just had to get people's specials and do damage. Um, and to be fair, the earlier part of the game, like the earlier round, wasn't a huge deal for me just because what I did was because I placed everybody perfectly
Yeah.
in terms of like the squishy characters in front, I immediately like got those characters sort of out of the way. And then all you have to do is get the main boss to like 3/4 of his health.
Yeah.
So I just kind of rushed him and I was
He
able to do
kept
it that way.
doing that stupid move where it
Like
attacks
risk
other people.
management or
Oh,
whatever,
I
where
he did it so much in my second route. I was so ticked. I was so lucky that Ozma had charmed people and was going around killing because he wouldn't let me attack him. I ended up having to kill
mm.
everybody else
Oh wow. Yeah,
just
I
to
think
be
I
able
only
to
killed like
attack him
two or
because
three people.
he kept putting up ruin manage like it was such shitty RNG the second time for his phase one. He just kept putting ruin management on, and I was like, "Come on, I can't do shit to you." So it
That's
was
rough.
frustrating. So I had to kill almost all of them, and it was great that I had that charm because it gave
Mhm.
me that little bit of an edge. Otherwise, I think he would have downed at least a couple characters. And in the second phase, I kept everybody in the circle and he kept teleporting to the healer spot. And I was getting so ticked off.
Oh god, that's
So
the
I
worst.
ended up like bringing people in a little bit closer and then hitting him with far off magic. So that's where Ravnus's magic from afar helped. I ended up having Sherry in the party at that point, and she was
Mhm.
doing like her big earth but singular spell, not the area effect, but the singular one against him, and doing like 150 damage every time she hit him. So, and I used the items you got in just before fighting the end boss. You get these heal all MP items. So
Oh, I saved those. I
yeah,
saved those for the next because I also still
I
had
did that in the
mages.
second phase, not the first phase.
Okay.
Yeah. So the second phase is when I healed everybody's like MP to max with the ones who had it. Ozma
Mhm.
had one, Sherry had one. I put one on Ravnus, and then I had a couple characters who had them. Oh, like Vice had one, so he could chuck it at somebody.
Mhm.
Not that he was gonna use it, but he could throw it at one of my like mages. And oh, Katya had one too. And so he kept teleporting in the corner. So I started to get impatient. So I took Ozma and I sent her down, and everybody else was building up their MP and being able to be doing their super attacks. And Ozma goes down there and I start pummeling him with her big moves, and then he got real pissed and he kills her. And no RNG protection this time. She's
Yikes.
down. And I was like, okay. But it was one character. So like I took my healer who he kept teleporting to and moving up and reviving her. And because Vice had the special sword, he got that one revive.
Oh, yep. See, Denim had
So
that for
he
me.
brought back up Denim for me one round because he knocked out.
Mm.
But I was just patient and I just let him when he teleported one character, I let those characters hit him. When he teleported the next, I let those characters, but I didn't try to close in
Yeah.
except for with that Ozma bit. And finally I ended up beating it, and only two the mage and my like the sisters, Sherry and the Olivia or
Wow.
whatever, were the only ones down, but they were not permadead and they were only just down. And I ended it with everybody alive. So I got every because they were all plot characters.
Same. Yeah,
My
I
ending was 2 hours long.
what the fuck? Okay, mine was not mine was like maybe a half
Almost
hour.
like an hour, like almost 2 hours long because of all the side characters I got, and
What
they
the
all got
hell?
endings. And they all got depth in story endings. And I was like, almost 2 hours for getting.
Like I said, mine was like a half hour because it's like it goes
Well, I
through.
think I'm exaggerating. I think it ended up being I beat the game, like, when I went to bed, it was, like, 3 AM. I beat it at, like, 1 30-ish. So I
That's
think is
about
when
when
I
I beat
spammed
it when
you.
I played it too.
Yeah, so I think it was more like an hour and a half, but it's just because I had all the side characters and they did endings for all of them. And I was, like, really listening into the stories because I thought, like, they all wrapped up pretty cool, but, like, yeah. So do you wanna talk about maybe I should talk about the ending and then you talk about the one Mooney got because I don't know
There's
anything about
there's
that one.
two different ones actually.
Oh,
So
okay, never mind.
yeah, there's two
Wait,
different
so there's 3?
there's three total. Yeah. So one of
Oh,
them is
okay.
like really hard to get. It's like it's one of those things where like you can't have anyone down. Like there's like a hidden value, and you also have to let Kachua die. So if she dies and you like meet this requirement, Denim becomes the like leader, and they're like thanking him, but then you find out that Lotus is sending 200,000 troops to come invade. And I guess that's how it ends. So it just
Oh.
leaves it up in the air that Lotus is about to come, and
Oh,
they're like,
shit.
"Hey, you did a great job, but Lotus is coming to wipe you off the map. Sorry, bye."
'Cause you don't have a ruler.
I mean, technically, Denim steps into the role of Lord.
But
In
still, rip Denim, yeah.
in in
Okay.
the other path that Kachua dies, what ends up happening is
Is it which one was Mooney's? Is
M-
this one Mooney's here?
Mooney is she got this one. What happens
Okay.
is there's grumblings about an assassination attempt coming, but no one can actually get the chance to stop it. And the assassination happens, but then it cuts to a black screen and you don't know if Denim's dead or alive. You assume that he's dead, but they don't confirm anything. So that's what happens in
No, that's
the.
bullshit.
I knew you would
No.
hate that ending. I
No, that's
knew you would
bullshit.
hate that
I
ending.
refuse to accept that as an ending. No, my boy goes through hell. My boy goes through hell. No, I
I wish
refuse. I'm
you got
sorry,
that
Mooney. I don't
ending.
like your ending.
I wish you got that ending because when I saw that was the ending, I was like, please let Polly get this ending because she is gonna be outraged. And if that is the first ending you
I
get,
would have checked the
that'll make
controller and been like, fuck this game.
that'll make for such good content. But you got the other ending.
Especially since I did all the side stuff. So, like, I did, like, these side characters because I had the option to be able to do it because
Mhm.
you weren't able to on your route. So, like, I was able to do extra side stuff or whatever. So I did all this, like, crowd talking about what happens if you 100% the game, what's the ending? And I'm like, I got very close to it. Like, I think I only on my route, I only missed 2. Then I think the necromancer oh no, 3. The necromancer, the griffin
I think you
crazy
missed looking
guy
at the list. I think you missed another one too.
and Deb, the
There's
mage. I missed
another
the
there's
mage.
another
Oh, was
lawful
there
only
another
one
one?
too.
Okay,
Yeah,
so yeah, but, like, so I only end up missing 4. So I got really, really close. So, like, the fact that my ending was an hour and a half, like, is
that is
ridi
so
but,
ridiculous.
after all of that, after all of it, it was piss off enough that one of my side characters I worked really hard on getting, they went and killed him off in my ending. Or they killed him off in just the normal ending of that character. Like, he will die in all 3 endings.
Wait, who?
Fucking Azelstan.
Oh, the just
4 optional battles to get. My pirate guy, Cannonly, kicks the bucket. And I was like, I hate this game. And so, like, I would have been so bad. I would have been so mad if I got the ending where Denim also did. I would have been like, this game is shit. This is getting a 2 out of 10. I hate it. I'm never coming back to this. Like, I'd be so furious. I'm kind
I
of glad I didn't get Moody's ending. Sorry,
I
Moody.
knew that you would be upset by it because I don't want to say what game, but there was another game that the main character has optional endings that the main character dies and you were outraged about it. So I knew that
Mhm.
you would not
Mhm.
be happy about that
Mhm.
ending if you got
Yes.
it.
Because you go through the whole game
Yep.
attached to your main character. It's
Yep.
bullshit when they take that away. Like, it's maddening.
It's
Yes.
such a like an anticlimactic ending. It's like everything's so epic, and then it's just like it just falls flat because you just get assassinated. And the worst part is they don't even tell you if he actually. They leave it up to like interpretation, which is something I hate in a lot of situations. Like leaving it up to interpretation is
Well, it's the same
so
with the
annoying.
Lancelot thing. Remember
Oh,
with
true.
Lancelot? Like, okay, so oh my goodness, this ripped out my heart too, and I sent, like KJ was live on stream, and I was throwing images at him in his DMs, being like, "Did you see this scene? I'm so upset." And it's basically like, because okay, you knew Lancelot was kidnapped, but your party didn't. Denham didn't know, nobody knew what happened to him. You knew in like, because you're seeing the whole story, you knew he was kidnapped, but you didn't think. And then they give you this scene where you see Lancelot and he's a broken man because he's been tortured and he can't talk and he can't move and he can't do anything. And you're like, what the hell? And it talked about if only he was saved. I was like, I never got an option to save
Well,
him. And I was so mad.
that's because they introduced like the go back in time feature and
Yeah.
like the
I
coda
find that out
feature,
after I
and
beat the game.
you can save him, or
Yeah.
like, you can do maps to
I
recruit
almost
him.
did that before this podcast, but this week has been like really bullshit. So like I didn't end up
Makes
getting to
sense.
play any gaming, but I would have tried to get that thing because when you beat the game, you get a save state and then you go back before you do like the whole gauntlet. You get your level cap extends
Mhm.
again, and then you get the ability to travel through. And apparently there's 3 or 4 more characters through that you could
3.
get, one of them being Warren,
Yep, and then Lancelot's one of them,
Lancelot.
and then there's one other character.
Yeah, there's one other person, and it's
Yeah.
because you go into time, because now you know what happened to Lancelot. You could go back into time and rescue
Mhm.
and I was like, "I need to rescue him." I will do that someday. I mark my words, I'm going to do that someday.
I'm
But,
not gonna
uh
I'm not gonna
but
replay it.
I was
I'm more
so
interested in playing the other
heartbroken.
games, personally.
But apparently, according to, like, the information about it, it's technically not canon because you're time traveling and
Yeah,
yada, yada, yada.
exactly. No, that's
It's just an extra thing because people were just like, "What you did to Lancelot is bullshit."
Mhm.
Like, absolute, especially because we get Hoberum and Ozma get a very sweet ending at the end. They get to be happily ever after, which they went through similar bullshit, and you don't give that. And then Lancelot's scene is just, like, still
He had
not
his
with
time
it or
to
whatever,
shine.
he just was reaching out to the snow, and I'm like, he's still in
He
there."
had his time to shine. He was the hero of
No.
he was the hero of a previous game. Like,
But the little
he
boy.
had his time to shine. Oh my goodness.
So
I there's
so
there
our
are
joint ending that we got was I think it's the canon ending. Basically is that, Katua gets on the throne, peace be with you. And then Denham's like, I'm gonna do my own thing because he's been serving country, she's now on the throne, whatever. He decides that he is gonna go visit Lancelot's hometown,
Mhm.
like our home country. And that's what he wants to do.
Yeah,
And
he
then
decides gonna set out to Zenobia.
yeah, he was gonna go to Zenobia, and see it, and then, all your party members who were canon plot characters, all get endings. So
Yeah.
everyone that you got gets an ending, you get to see what happens to them. All the sisters, apparently there's a better ending with the sisters if you get all 4, but you can only do it in KJ's route.
Oh, I should go back and
Um,
get the 4th one.
Sherry, yeah,
I
apparently
should. I don't
there's
wanna
an
beat the
extra
game again. No,
scene.
screw that. I'm not doing that. I'll watch it on YouTube.
There's an extra scene with Sherry if you got her,
Mhm.
all 4 of them together. Ravnus, ends up having a really happy ending. Vice kinda is just mad you left. He's like, "My rival is leaving. Why are you leaving me, Denham? Excuse me, sir." And then
Vice is
they're
the worst.
Vice is a ruler of, like, a little city kinda thing, like, he's a keeper of one of the castles, and they're like, "Are you gonna do anything?" And he's just like, and he stares out a window, and he starts to look like he's gonna climb out the window and follow you. Oh my goodness, Vice, you are like a puppy dog, you will never leave my side. Um Zapan. So he didn't get this character. He hated this character. I thought his ending was hilarious.
The fact that
So
Zapan was a staple, Zapan and Vice being a staples in your party are just like mind blowing to me because I hated both of those characters with a
yeah,
passion.
Zapan is like, he's like, I don't know what to do now. I don't want to do bounty hunting anymore. I'm getting old. And Denham's like, this is why you're at this castle because you're going to help protect it. And he's
Oh
like,
my
you're
goodness.
giving me a castle? And he starts getting really emotional. And Denham's like, are you crying? Like, are you crying right now? And then he's like,
Ugh.
excuse me. He grabs you, lifts you up in the air. He says, you want to say that again? And like holds you over the edge. And it's like, you want to do it? And Denham's like, just kidding. So he puts him down and then they have a laugh or whatever. And I'm just like, were you gonna yeet Denim off the castle? Like, excuse me? But yeah, and then Hoberim and Ozma have this really touching one. They
Mhm.
actually go back to where Hoberim's parents, whatever castle they owned, they go back to
They're
rule
from
it.
Lotus.
Yeah, Lotus. They go back to there and they go back to one of the like the castles or whatever
Mhm.
to rule or whatever and take care of it, stuff like that. And they're just kind of like sitting there and like it's kind of hinted that maybe they're going to be starting a family, but it's not like super revealed. And it's just really sweet and touching. You're like, yay, a romantic ending. Because there's like none of that in this game.
I would have
I was
just been
so
like,
happy
yeah,
there
it's
was
a
this
thing.
love plot somewhere except for one of the sisters because I only got two in mine. The Olivia was like, she's gonna follow Denim. She's like, I can't leave him behind. I'm too attached to
I
him.
don't
And this
remember
is
what happens with the sisters, and
Sherry's just like picking on her, being like, "Oh, you're gonna follow Denim," and she's like, "Stop!" And I'm like, "Okay, that I
I
can see
can't.
that working."
Yeah, I don't remember. I'm not gonna lie. I don't remember what happens with the with a lot of the side characters, only because the biggest thing in the end of the game that I remember is the fact that there are still Dark Knights and they're going back to Lotus. And it's like, this
Yeah,
is the last game in the series. So,
yeah,
like,
and it just literally has that like, and you're like, I screamed at the TV that they were still alive
I
because
was
I
so,
knew like Lancelot, you never kill him, right?
yeah, you never
So
kill Lancelot.
you never fight him.
Yeah.
Well, you fight him once and he runs away. But I
Yeah.
mean, like you never fight him to kill him. You get all his little minions except for one other guy. But
No, there were
like
three
there's
people
3 total, yeah. That's
that were,
the
that
Dark
survived,
Knights.
counting Lancelot. Yeah.
Yeah, and then you killed all the other ones.
Because, yeah,
Yeah,
they
so
went on, they ended up
you
on the
see
boat
them
going back to Lotus.
fleeing, and you're like, "Oh, hell no." Like, I wanna go after them. Where's the and it's not in the optional content of the game.
Nope.
It's not and there's no other game.
Yeah.
That was it.
The other games happen either, like I said earlier, Ogre Battle 64 happens at the same time as this game. And
Square,
then
if you're
um
listening, finish this story. Damn it, Square! Finish! I wanna kill Lancelot!
just
Square,
think, if we
just
play the
give
Game
me a
Boy
DLC.
if we
Give
play
me
the Game Boy
DLC.
game,
We'll
you'll
kill
get
him.
to use Lancelot.
No, I wanna kill him. Listen, Square gave me this game to sponsor, and now I'm throwing it back in your court, Square. Please continue this game, even if it's DLC. Let me kill evil Lancelot, and let the canon be I save good Lancelot, and we're good. We're good. Oh, and then Denim and Olivia could get together too. That'd be nice. Denim deserves love for all he's been through.
But yeah, so that was definitely, I was happy they showed that because I was curious, but now I'm just like, you left me on a cliffhanger. Like, I want to know.
Yeah.
But it did.
But because they remade this game and still left that in, I wonder if they were seeing how people would receive this game to maybe continue it.
Maybe. I
Maybe?
don't know. I mean, I don't think this game sold super, super well. So I don't know.
Oh,
Like,
that's
I think the
unfortunate.
numbers were down um
That's so sad.
a bit, but
We
yeah, I
post this
think
everywhere and encourage people to go and buy the game.
it's a good game. Like, it's a very good game. The story is great. Like, I I can't help but look at it and say, like, I've been trying not to compare games. I've been doing a good job of that, but like
Yeah.
looking at this versus Final Fantasy Tactics and like
Oh,
just kind of
yeah.
going
See, I
back
don't
and
have that
forth.
connection.
And yeah, they're just it's definitely there's a lot of parallels. But at the same time, I think Final Fantasy Tactics allows a bit more freedom
Okay.
in terms of like gameplay and
It
classes and
actually
stuff.
gets honestly, it gets me hyped to play Final Fantasy Tactics someday, because
Yes,
if that's
definitely
by the
should.
same team, and it's very similar to this, but a little bit more freedom, that actually gets me really, really hyped. That might be a game that I throw on stream, like, out of my own, like, not let it like, you guys don't have to put it on the backlog, I'll just play it. Because I feel like with this one, like, coming into this with, like, I'm just gonna wipe Fire Emblem Fates off the the
Good
map
call.
of,
Don't even think about that game. That game
yeah,
is
yeah, yeah. I'm
that's like
thinking
a
of this as, like,
non-game.
my first real tactics game,
Mhm.
played all the way through it. I somehow lucked out and beat the end, got some additional characters. I put, like, over 90 hours in this game, um, just collecting all the side characters. And honestly, it was a little bit more than that because I got halfway through your route, or sorry,
Yeah.
I got halfway through chapter 2 of your route and then went back to my save and went my way and then went all the way through. So that was about
Mhm.
10 hours there. So like I would say easily 100 hours in this game. And I still even want to do like the little optional things of getting the extra characters after the game and someday, and everything at some point, because I'm like I had a really good time with it. And honestly, like, it makes me a little sad to hear that sales didn't do super great, maybe because it wasn't as, like, big titled RPG, tactics RPG as some of them are, maybe, but honestly, going into this with an incredibly fresh perspective and not playing Final Fantasy Tactics and not having Fire Emblem,
Mhm.
any good Fire Emblem games anyway, to compare it to, I thoroughly enjoyed the game. I thought the mechanics were done really well. There were like maybe tiny little things that I wish were a little different, and I hate that it ends on a cliffhanger because I
Same.
just want to know. But I'm very happy I didn't get Mooney's ending because I would have been very outraged, and I do not
I
like
feel
when
that.
my main character dies in games. It makes me very angry, but like very raging. But it doesn't mean I won't still enjoy the game. It's just like
Mhm.
I will be crying at the end of the game, being like, "Why did you do this to me?" Though I got pretty teary eyed partway through, like at the Ozma story,
Mhm.
Ravenous coming around, like things like that. Even like when Katya is like crying to you and holding you and stuff like that, in her desperate need. After knowing everything she's been through, I was getting kind of teary eyed at that point too. So like this game really made me emotional. But with everything like that, I'm going through with like a just incredibly fresh perspective. I'm like, this is just a really good game. It's got so much plot and so much character development and so many fun mechanics. Like, I'm looking at this going like, I wanna own the PlayStation version of this game just to have in my collection
It's
because I
expensive.
like it so much.
It
Maybe even the
is
Super Nintendo game
the
someday.
Super Nintendo ones are more expensive than the PlayStation one.
Oh, yeah, I'm gonna my wallet will cry, but maybe
Yeah.
someday I'll win the lottery and I can afford it, okay?
Yeah, I was just looking. I don't see anything about, like, any other games or anything like that. I couldn't find anything. So, yeah, it seems like I mean, I know that story-wise, the Game Boy Advance game is like a side game, so I don't think they necessarily count it as part of the main series.
Okay.
And then it starts with the SNES one, which is the March of the Black Queen, and then technically Tactics Ogre 64, or Ogre Battle 64 is the sixth game, and then this one is the seventh
So
one.
which one do you get to play as, like, the good Lancelot, my boy?
Ogre Battle, March of Black Queen. So the very
Oh, so this
the
okay. So I would love to
SNES/PS1
play
game.
that one someday.
Yeah.
Ogre Battle 64, I'll try to play that someday, but I really did like Mean Lancelot or Lancelot.
Well, that's not actually that's happening at the same time as this game. So that's the GBA
Oh,
one
okay.
is the
Oh,
Dark Knight
GBA one,
Lancelot.
okay.
Yeah.
That's the one I'll probably skip. So Ogre Battle 64 would be really interesting to do then, and the Super Nintendo one, I'd be very
That's
interested.
gonna
Like,
be an on stream game for me.
oh, you're gonna play Ogre back? Oh,
Yeah, I
yes,
have
let's
it.
go. Okay.
I bought it I do plan on playing that.
Oh, sweet. You
That'll
did
be
get it.
good.
That's awesome.
And then
Yeah, I would love
yeah,
that.
the GBA one, like it seems like it's just gonna be really interesting. I was having some conversations about it
I mean, yeah, I'd
with some
probably
people,
still
and
play it just because, again, like, as much as I hate that character, he was an interesting character too. So
we'll
it'd be
weasel it.
really
It'll weasel its way into the podcast.
Oh, he would do it for the fun. Okay, all right. Yeah,
It'll weasel its
I
way
could
into
get
the
behind that.
podcast.
Honestly, the Super Nintendo one, I'd be down even if we could both get a copy of the March of the Black Queen. If that would be really fun to connect with this podcast in general
Sure,
because it's a
that would be cool. Yeah, yeah.
prequel, right? So
Mm-hmm.
it'd be very interesting. It's like doing the like where you stream Valkyrie Profile and then we did the Valkyrie Profile 2, which was a
True.
prequel sequel.
Yeah,
That was really cool to have that
that's a
connected.
good. That's a good point.
So what would you give your overall rating of this game?
Ooh, rating of this game. This game was
Yeah.
good. Um, Tactics wise, like it story wise, it was great. Um, Gameplay was very good. The like job class system definitely could have been better. Um, 8.5, 8.5 out of 10. I'd probably go 8.5 out
Okay.
of 10. Yeah, I think
Yeah.
like there were
And that's
definitely
with you
I
going in with like your knowledge of like Final Fantasy Tactics and other tactic games too and stuff like that
yeah, and I
too.
mean I think this story, and you have to figure too, like this is before having like any of the previous knowledge. Like this story is fantastic. I think
Mhm.
this story, like this game
Kept me
really
on my toes.
shines with the story, and I think it just it absolutely it's a must play for honestly anybody that loves Final Fantasy Tactics should play this game in my opinion. Like
Okay.
I think that there's a lot of parallels you can draw,
And
and
anybody who played this game should play Final Fantasy Tactics,
exactly.
right?
It's
Okay.
it's it's definitely like you can see where they are similar, and I think it like really that is something that really shines through, and it's like, oh, if you love tactics, if you love Final Fantasy Tactics, you'll love this game. Um if you love this game, you'll love Final Fantasy Tactics as well. Um and yeah, I think overall I'd say like 8.5.
Eight
Eight
and
and
a
a half
half.
would be
Okay.
where I would probably land
Yeah,
on
Final
Tactics Ogre
Fantasy
Reborn.
Tactics might be an on-stream game for me. I know
You
you
should
were
definitely. Yeah, you
yeah,
should.
I
That's
knew
not
you
even
really
a
wanted to see me play that game. I need to talk to you whether I should do the original Tactics or I think it's War of the Lions
play
or
War of the Lions.
something.
War of the Lions is just a better version.
Yeah, okay. Yeah. I think it's literally like that. Does it matter which one I play or should I do the War of the Lion
Play the
one?
War of the Lions one.
War of the
War
Lion?
of the
Okay.
Lions is just like I said, it's just a better version.
Okay, perfect. All right. So my overall rating of this game might I think for me, like I don't have Final Fantasy Tactics to compare it to or anything like that, where things might be better or worse, or like Fire Emblem or anything like that. So like I'm going in with a completely blank slate. I agree with KJ that I think people should play this game. The story is absolutely phenomenal. The mechanics were really well done. I found myself excited to play every time. Like every time I got a chance to play this game, I played this game and Tactics Ogre Reborn kept me hooked. I love the characters. I love the voice acting. I loved so much about it that honestly, this might beat out Live Alive for me out
Ooh,
of the podcast games now.
is this
And
your
I think this
favorite
is my
podcast game
favorite
we've played?
I think this is my favorite podcast game we've played. I think this is
Ooh,
a 9.5 out of 10 for me.
ooh.
I literally the point 5 lower for me is just the fact that there are a few little like mechanical things and then kind of leaving me on a cliffhanger and having me have nothing
Mm-hmm.
of that is a little bit rough, especially because like I mean there's games that do that but then they give you more.
Yeah.
It's like a novel leaving off on a cliffhanger and then they're just never continuing the novel series. So but I realized that they had lost the team and the team went off to do or they moved the team to Final Fantasy Tactics and yada yada. I really
Mm-hmm.
hope that they do revisit this someday because I think it's absolutely phenomenal. Like the characters
Yeah,
were great, everything was
it's
so good
great.
about
This
this. It's so hard to find a flaw. I thought about it. I kept writing down. I was between a 9 and a 9.5. But the reason I'm giving it the 9.5, which is I think a half over Live Alive for me is because like Live Alive had a few parts of it that I could very noticeably be like the prehistoric one was a little bit rough and the visual novel one was a little bit rough. With this game, like there's really nothing that was rough. Like you could choose to do side stuff or you could choose to not do side stuff and build up other units and recruit and what and do whatever you want. So
Mhm.
you didn't need to get the extra plot characters and still beat the game, as KJ proved that in his route he didn't get the option to get some of these really cool side characters. So he built up his team and everything, and he managed to beat it, and everything fine. So to me, it's like you can play this game different ways. You
Mhm.
can preference different units. All the units are really good. Like, I mean, I'm sure there's like better classes or better management of the classes, or maybe making a few of them a little bit more like achievable or something. But at the end of the day, like I thoroughly enjoyed this game. I've sunk 100 hours into it. I'm even excited someday to do some of the optional content, which doesn't like I don't generally like super go onto that unless I really love the game. Like Star Ocean 6, like I might play through it just to kind of get the Raymond thing. But Star Ocean 2, for example, I really played through that game multiple times because I like the differences of things, and the different endings were a little bit more unique to me, where I realize now Star Ocean 6 kind of the endings at the end of the game weren't as unique as Star Ocean 2. So it doesn't drive me as much. But this game, like having the extra content where I could go and save Lancelot and go and do, get these other characters or do this thing, I was like, you know what? I might actually do this. And it's intrigued me enough that I want to play all the other Ogre games. I actually want to go out and I want to play the other Ogre games.
Yes,
So,
I
like, to
love it.
me, if a game makes me want to play all the others, that's a 9 at least for me. And then maybe 9 like I think I'm leaning on 9.5. That might
Okay.
change if I play like Final Fantasy Tactics and I see the improvements it could have made, and maybe it'll drop a little. But for now, I'm gonna give it 9.5 out of 10. I love this fucking game. It's amazing. Like I'm so hooked into Tactics now. Like let's hope all the rest of Tactics game I play is
We
not a
did it,
crushing
everybody.
disappointment.
We did it. We got her. We got her.
Like
We're
yeah, y'all tricked me. Y'all
I've
got me
made
to play this masterpiece of a game to trick me onto your tactics
I've
side of
made
things.
Polly a tactics fan. I can rest easy tonight.
Yeah, yeah.
I've
KJ
made
KJ
Polly a
did.
tactics
He
fan.
got me on. And the funny thing is he dangled this carrot, and then I saw and Square Enix having a hand in this. I saw they had a CD key. So I told him, I was like, "Okay, I'm going to apply for it and I'm going to talk about being complete noob to tactics game in my application." And if I get the CD key, I'll give it a try, a couple streams of it, and then we'll see if we're gonna make it the podcast. He's like, "Yeah, that's fair. Let's do it. Like, you try it first. I don't want you to hate going through the podcast
Mhm.
game. We could pick something else." So I applied, basically just going on about like I haven't played Tactics game before. I think it'd be really cool if my community saw me play a new one, or Tactics game, and bring love to this thing. Da, da, da. So they gave it to me, and I was really shocked. And so I told him, and then I did the couple of streams, and then literally at the end of the first stream, I was just like, "KJ, we're doing it. We're going. We're going." At the end of the first, I didn't even need the second stream, even though I did. I think two. Yeah, I did two Tactics Ogre streams. Um, even though I did two of them. I that was because I did one on Christmas Eve. That was fun.
Sure.
But I didn't need another play session. I was like, "No, I'm in. I'm in. The story's interesting. Mechanics are kind of cool. Like I'll get used to this. I'm in." So tax KJ has brought me over to the tech. Now I just want to play another tactics
We
game.
did it. We did it, y'all. Um okay,
But
so
yeah.
we can kind of wrap this up then, I think.
Yeah, let's announce like the next game that we're doing, and then we could do a like that's the end wrap up, and then talk to chat a little bit and go from there.
Yeah, no,
Do you wanna
totally
announce it's gonna be on your channel next?
sure.
What are we playing
Um
next, KJ?
yes. So first of all, thank you everybody for joining us for this episode of Turn-Based Tangents. Next episode we are going to be it's going to be live like end of February. And we're going to be playing Phantasy Star 4, which is a game that a
It's
lot of
cool.
people speak highly of. The best way I can explain what I've heard is it's if you take the Sega Genesis library and you compare it to the SNES library, it's like the Chrono Trigger or like Final Fantasy VI of the Genesis library, in
Which I'm
terms of
so
RPGs.
excited about because I love those
So
games.
it's come very, very highly recommended. So we're going to be playing
I'm
it
super excited.
through the Sega Genesis collection because it is on that, and that's available on the Switch, on Steam. I think it's available on PlayStation as well as Xbox. So I think it's available on everything.
Yeah, I think it's on everything,
But I
yeah.
think we'll
But
both
we're
be
gonna
playing
be
it on
doing
the
the Switch
Switch.
one.
Yeah. And yeah, it's a pretty short game. It's about 20 hours. So that'll be very, very interesting. It's a game that you don't have to play in a specific order from what I've heard.
Which is
So
perfect.
I think there might be like some small little Easter egg type things, but you don't have to play them in order. So very, very excited for that. But with that said, we can now wrap up. This was another episode of Turn-Based Tangents. Thank y'all for joining us. And yeah.
Yeah. Thank you for